Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto gets cheated on by Ruby. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Relix1333 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Story start. There he is. Get him. Kill the demon. Nowhere to run now, damned monster. Waking with a gasp, Naruto sat up, the bedsheets sliding off his bare chest. Damn it, he muttered, before glancing at the woman standing in his room. Glenda, he greeted with a grunt. I was about to wake you, your emotions were rising nightmare again. He nodded, looking up at the woman, who was trying her best not to look at him. He snorted. No doubt disgusted. He felt the idle, phantom pain in his chest, from when the one he thought his brother, shoved a Chidori through his chest twice. He could only imagine how much the buxom woman hated the scars. Sighing, he stood, pulling his blanket with him to cover himself. Grabbing a fresh pair of clothes, he didn't notice the blush sported by his fellow blonde. So Glenda spoke. How did your job go? So. He replied as he stepped into his shower. A few high-class, stupid guardians tried to tell me they had it covered, nearly got themselves killed, ran into a circle, wiped them out. The usual. Oh, are you excited about the new year? He snorted. Nope. I hate paperwork. He stated with a laugh. Well, as a new teacher, I am obliged to help you get used to everything, so, just let me know if you need anything. Thanks, Glyn. You're welcome. She replied. I will excuse myself. Sure. See you in the morning, I suppose? Try to sleep well. Yes, thank you. You as well, try to sleep. Line break. Naruto sat in his classroom, watching the live feed from his scroll. He sighed, rubbing his face as he watched the hopefuls struggle through the test. Was I really this bad? He muttered to himself. What is your strife? Peter Port, or, as he and Crow like to call him, Pork or Porky. Just watching these kids, I'm embarrassed to say I think I used to be as unprepared as them. Nonsense, Port said boisterously. They are merely unlearned, they do not yet know what it is they are aspiring to do. That is why we are here, to teach them patience, caution, loyalty, and all that fun stuff. Maybe I'm just a hard, perhaps. I can remember when you were apprenticing, and you threw that Winchester boy out the window. A smile pulled onto his lips. Yeah, we have another Winchester this year too. Perhaps he will not be like his elders. Oh, he will be. Naruto chuckled. In fact, he seems worse. That is very unfortunate. Peter muttered. Yeah, the school's window bill will go through the roof. Port's booming laughter echoed through the room. Glenda will have a heart attack. Naruto hummed in surprise as he saw Taiyang's younger child beheaded giant Nevermore. What is it? Port asked. Oh, it seems Summer's daughter is living up to her reputation. Yes, Osborne thought she might. Terribly sad what happened. Yes. But it has made the children strong. They may have dealt a powerful blow to mankind, but they have also ensured their own destruction. And you are sure they have? How so? Well, firstly, the young Rose may not know it, but she has inherited more than just her eyes from her mother, and secondly, they brought me here. Yes, and you believe you can take them on? That thing may claim to be a goddess, but I have fought gods and goddesses, I have slain gods and goddesses. Her power is nothing compared to them. At most, she is a moderately powerful demon. If worse comes, then I will unveil myself. Do you think yourself a god? Port asked. No, Naruto said. I am a bijou. Tailed beast, is that correct? Yes. And how did you become what you are? Chuckling, Naruto said. That is a story for another time. The kiddies are back. Ah. Then perhaps later in the year. Perhaps. He replied, standing. The two were soon walking to the auditorium. Line break. The bell rang in a large class. As soon as it stopped, Naruto stood from where he stood. Greetings, my cute little students, he said, holding back a snicker at how off-put they looked. He had long learned the joys of messing with people. He could see why Kakashi did so. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. In class, I must insist that you call me Professor Uzumaki, Mr. Uzumaki, or Sensei, else our wonderful deputy headmistress will have my ass. Outside of class, I insist you call me Naruto. Now, on to what my class is about. The 2 hours you spend with me during Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be survival and self-care studies. In my class you will learn to which plants are poisonous, which plants are not, which plants you should eat in different circumstances. You will learn to tend to wounds in the wilderness, to hunt, to make, or find shelter. How to tell time by the sun and stars, how to tell your direction, with the sun and stars. Most of you, may think this class stupid, worthless, and a waste of your time. However, while most hunters are killed by Grimm, most of the time, that is because they don't know how to survive. They get lost, get sick, get weak, and become easy prey for the Grimm. Unfortunately, Beacon is the only hunter academy that makes this a mandatory class. Haven and Shade have as an optional. Atlas has a huge stick up their asses, and simply can't function without tech. That being said, a class like this simply isn't there. He couldn't help but grin at the shocked reaction of him, openly insulting the most advanced kingdom. Now please come and collect your books from this shelf, he said, motioning at a large shelf on the north wall, or the wall to his left. But the students on the north side must collect them first. He laughed at the shocked expressions of the students, most of which were looking around, trying to find out which way was which. Also, you will be graded on this. Is a student on the south side collects before those on the north, they, and his or her team, will fail. What? The outraged cry of a student came through the class. Are you surprised? The mistake of one person can often lead to the death of a whole team. My class teaches survival, and one of the keys to survival is not only working well with your team, but doing so correctly. Hey! My compass is disabled. The surprised cry of one wise Shni cried. That is correct. Naruto stated. I had Ochbin disable them, while on school grounds, when there is no grim threat, your compasses will not work. There will be many times, when on the field, you will be too far from civilization, for such an accessory to work. Sudden Ruby Rose stood and headed towards the bookshelf. What are you doing? Whis hissed. The sun rises in the west, so north, facing the rising sun, is to our right, his left. Yes, I'm making remnants spin the opposite direction as Earth. Whwa? How would you know? Yang stood yawning. Our father and uncle are huntsmen, they drilled it into us. Always know your directions, you never know when you'll need to know. Good job, Rubes, I was afraid you had forgotten. Very good, Ms. Rose, but are you sure that's correct? Naruto said. She tilted her head, for a second, before nodding. She and Yang collected their books, followed by Blake. Weiss, however, sat stubbornly still with her arms crossed. Come on, Weiss. Ruby said. Get your books. I'm not failing because of you. There is no way someone as childish as you could possibly know something like that. Ruby groaned into her desk. Well, even if I am wrong, we've already failed then. HMMF. She replied, turning her head away. Great, Yang groaned. Just what we need. Dead weight. A growl left Weiss's throat. And what could a dumb bimbo like you know? Ugh. Why did I have to be put on a team of idiots? As the class continued, more students went to collect their books. All the while, Naruto sat at his desk, idly stamping papers. After an hour had passed, the first bell rang, signaling the class was halfway through. Waiting for another 5 minutes, the second bell rang, and Naruto stood. All right, time's up, now we begin our class in earnest, but first. Picking up the papers he had stamped, he cleared his throat. Team ABGL, Abigail, pass. Alice Thorne, pass. Brian Soule, pass. Gilbert Truss, pass. Leah Fond, pass. Team. He stopped, seeing a student hand raised. Yes, Ms. Nikos? You said that the team would fail if one member failed, then why are you naming team members themselves? Naruto smiled. I'm glad you noticed. Many times on missions you will not have the full details either. Whoever gave the mission does not know everything about it, or they are withholding information for some purpose. Also, in my class, there will be a point system. The top 3 teams will be tutored under professional huntsmen, as they will likely be sent on harder, more dangerous missions before the others. If the team passes, each member will be awarded a single point, and for each member that passes, they will also be awarded a point. Meaning, in each test, the team has the potential to be awarded 5 points each. However, should a member fail, that member will not only not be awarded any points, but have one taken away. Furthermore, not all tests I give will have the entire team fail should a member fail. I see, thank you. The redhead replied. He nodded and... Now back to teams. Team APCT, Apricot, fail. Aaron Flint, fail. Patrick Stutt, pass. Christian Sloat, fail. Terry Hedge, pass. Team BZRD, Buzzard, pass. Bob YFF, pass. Zess Krull, pass. Richard Farrow, pass. Dylan Sand, pass. Team CRDL, Cardinal, fail. Carden Winchester, fail. Russell Thrush, fail. Dove Bronzewing, fail. Skylark, fail. Honestly, if you would spend less time with your heads up your asses, you might actually get somewhere. Team CRVN Carving, pass. Crystal Lost, pass. Rain Cross, pass. Vanessa Green, pass. Nevea Hades, pass. Naruto continued naming names for nearly 20 minutes. Team RWBY, if you're reading this, you probably know how that's pronounced, fail. Ruby Rose, pass. Weiss Schnee, fail. What? Do not interrupt me. Blake Belladonna, pass. Yan Xiaolong, pass. Team Soap, pass. Shasta Pong, pass. Oliver Arachne, pass. Alistair Throng, pass. Patricia Green, pass. Team ZMFY Zombify, really Ashpin? Pass. Santera, pass. Mondiam, pass. Felicia Crown, pass. Jasper Yellow, pass. Geez, that took longer than I expected. Any questions? No, good. Now, as we only have 15 minutes left, I will give you a small assignment. By Wednesday, I want each of you to read chapter 1 through 5 of Herbs of Remnant. That will be about herbs used to treat wounds that are common in the 4 kingdoms. I want each of you to write an essay that must be at least a single page long. Nothing too big, as it means I have to look through more stuff. Your essay will be about a salve or tea, whatever you choose, that you can make by mixing at least 3 of the plants in the first 5 chapters. You will give a description of what it can be used for, and how to make it. Feel free to read, chat, or whatever for the last 10 minutes. My class is dismissed. You Mr. Uzumaki? Piraniko said, raising a hand. Class is over, call me Naruto. Alright. I was wondering if you could tell us about some of your missions, things we could encounter on our own, to better prepare us for the future. He gave her a calculating gaze for a few moments, making her squirm. Very well, he said, leaning back. 3 years ago, I was sent on a mission, a simple search and rescue. A small caravan had sent a distress signal. One of their wagons had gotten separated. Along with the 4 people on it, me, a woman named Gale Longfin, along with 2 others were sent. Gale she was a wonder, smart, clever, and talent that was only matched by her beauty. We found and rescued the 4 members, though the cart was ruined. We, the 8 of us, gathered as much as we could from the wreckage, a fair bit, and made haste to meet the others. We met them after nearly 3 days. The job was finished, and we parted ways, us to a large town where we could get a bullhead to bring us to Vaco, where we'd left out from. The caravan, however, was heading in the opposite direction. We'd drawn shifts before we set out, and were rotating every night. With our packs light, and nothing to search for, we made it halfway to the town in one day. We weren't in any great hurry though. We set up camp for the night. Gale had the first shift, and I the third. She had done her shift, and roused the second. Before she headed to bed, the second, however, thought the job was done, so there was no danger, and went back to sleep. About the time my shift should have started, we were set upon by bandits. I woke to gunfire, and a cry of pain. We scrambled up, and did what we could to get to safety. When we did, Gale informed us she'd been tagged. We bandaged her the best we could, and ran. I, being the fastest of our group, carried Gale. We reached the town an hour after dawn. We rushed to a hospital, to find out I'd been carrying a corpse for the last several hours. The bullet was an aura-penetrating round. It had entered under her ribs, and went up into her chest, just missing most her vital organs enough that she bled to death in just under 2 hours. He closed his eyes, sitting up straight. You're probably wondering why I chose this story to tell you, and not a different one. The reason I did is because I can't stress enough, not as a teacher, not a superior, but as a fellow hunter, as a fellow protector of the all mankind, the importance of being alert, not only for yourself, but for all you comrades. Even here, in the school, Grim could come at any moment. We could be called to protect Vale and her people, at any moment. And if we aren't ready, if we aren't prepared, it could cost lives. I could have saved Gale, had I been more alert, had I have not allowed myself to be sure we were safe with just a watch shift. If I had set traps, alarms around our camp, if I had slept lighter. If I had been more alert, more careful. Perhaps she would still be alive. What happened to the one who didn't take his shift? Ruby asked. He went to the academy where he'd graduated from, and handed his license to the headmaster. He owns a simple dinner now. I've talked with him before. He said he's always been careless, and doesn't want the chance to kill another comrade to come. Are you okay? Ruby asked. I suppose so. That wasn't my first time seeing death. I had to kill a comrade of my own once. He betrayed us. A group offered him power. He took it. Though he was tasked with killing us, his team, he almost managed. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had thought he was my brother, my comrade, my friend. For power? John asked. Why? He wanted to be stronger than his brother. The bell rang and Naruto stood. That's it. Get to your next class. The quicker you're gone, the sooner I can nap. Go on. Get. Line break. Naruto sat on the roof of the school, watching the last rays of the setting sun, when he heard a soft swishing. Looking behind him, he smiled as he saw Glenda. Evening, he said cheerily. She sank down beside him. Stop that. I can see through your act. You told them about Gale. He flinched, looking away. Yeah, he muttered. Why? They needed to understand how dangerous this world is, how important it is that they perform certain tasks. He leaned back on the hard tiles, feeling his body lift in the air, and turn. He found himself lying with his head on Glenda's lap. He raised a questioning eyebrow, but said nothing. Glenda sighed, looking up as she ran her fingers through his hair, urging his ears to pop out, which they did. Did you ever wonder why? Why you ended up here? In this world? Of all the others, you went from one war-torn world to another. There could be millions and millions of other peaceful worlds. Naruto hummed for a moment. No, not especially. I'm here, there's no real going back. The chances of me even surviving, while higher than any human's, is microscopic. So I've accepted it. I'm here. I'm not going back, so why fret? Glenda smiled, watching as the light faded from the sun. You should stop beating yourself up over her. She wouldn't want you to mope about. She'd want you to be happy. Glenda sighed softly. No matter what you do, I'll always support you. He said nothing for several long moments. Yeah, I know, he muttered. End of first chapter. Story start. The sound of metal striking metal echoed through the forge, which sat under the school. It is here we find the blonde Uzumaki, hunched over a table, a heavy steel hammer in one hand, the other clutching a pair of tongs. A thick orange aura coating both the hammer and the tongs, flowing from the tongs into the item held within. With every strike of the hammer, the item took more shape, as well as absorbing more and more of the orange power. Sweat beaded on Naruto's brow as he pounded the metal into shape, forcing his chakra through the metal, making more and more receptive to his chakra as he shaped it. Sighing, he laid the hammer on the workbench, and took the small piece, still held in the tongs, back to the furnace. He slipped the piece into a small slot, the walls almost glowing as flames roared within. He watched carefully as the metal took the heat, slowly becoming softer and softer. Once it was at an appropriate temperature, he took it back to the workbench, and began pounding at the steel, once again pushing his chakra through it. He had come up the idea after learning how to create magnets, but wrapping copper around heated iron, and beating it, with the copper magnetized, from natural or artificial means. The iron would align with the magnetic field emitted by the copper, and, striking the iron as it cooled would allow the atoms to shift and stay aligned, making it a permanent magnet. What he was doing was following the same concept, save, instead of a magnetic field, it was aligning with his chakra. It would only carry his chakra, no other, aura, chakra, nor any other power would flow through it. In any hands save his own, it would be useless. A scrap of metal that would have to be completely reforged. Naruto smiled as the piece took a long, diamond shape. He took it back to the forge, so he could heat it yet again, and finish the shape, before drawing out the handle, or tang. Once he had the rough shape set, he set the unfinished blade with the 20 other unfinished kunai. He pulled the cart holding the kunai over to the grinders where he set to work. He chuckled as he felt the eyes of many students on him. Most first years didn't expect to see a teacher in the forges, much less one in a roughly gated off section having signs haphazardly hung about with Uzumaki printed across in large bold letters. It had taken him nearly 6 months of missions to buy all the tools in his workshop, tools which with most students' weapons couldn't be forged on. It was however perfect for his own weapons. He hummed as he used a clamp to keep a grip on one of the knives as he held it against the grinder. After he finished grinding the knives he glanced up at a clock, grunting, before he pulled the car over to a safe and locked the kunai inside, and left his workshop, vanishing in a shushin, to avoid the crowds of first-year students. He had to prepare for his second-year class. Line break. Move! Naruto snarled as he threw small rocks into the crowd of second years, each rock having a small, weak explosive seal inscribed on it. The students were forced to dodge and dive out of the way, as small shards pelted them. The shards were not large enough, or had enough force to do more than bruise them. That being said, they still hurt, but that only encouraged them to dodge even more. Come on, you're hunters, aren't you? Beacon only takes the best of the best. Now prove you earned your way here. Are you sure this is the best way to teach them? Glenda asked, the fingers of her right hand rapping against the left arm. Nope, he replied cheekily. But this is the best way I can think of where their lives aren't in danger. The blonde telekinetic sighed. Fine. Just don't hurt them too badly, he snorted. If they can't take this, they have no business here. I carved my own hand open when I was 13 to drain poison from my arm. He didn't have to be looking to know she flinched. Of all the people in Remnant, she probably knew the most about him. She didn't know everything. No, the last person he had trusted to that point had been ripped from his life. Well, please don't push them too hard, they are not near indestructible like yourself. I know, Glenda. He chuckled, tossing another stone into the fray. Besides, look at them, I mean, really watch. He tossed another. Glenda's eyes widened slightly when she saw the students dodge the flying shards almost without an effort. I see, she said. They are in capable hands, I'll leave them to you. Going somewhere? He asked, idly tossing another stone. I must prepare my classroom. Yesterday I had third years. She scrunched her nose. I have been putting off repairing it. Naruto laughed. You've stayed around me too much, Glyn. My bad habits are rubbing off on you. He glanced at her, to see her face slowly reddening. Something wrong? Glenda? Glenda's eyes came back into focus, and widened when she saw Naruto's own, onto inches from hers. Her already red face turned many shades darker when his forehead touched her own. Geez, Glenda, he said softly. You're really hot. Are you okay? She stepped back, schooling her features down. Yes, sorry. I had just remembered an embarrassing incident from my childhood. I must be going now, Naruto said, then shrugged, them turned back to the second years, most of which were staring at him with deadpan expressions. What? He asked. Coco Adele shook her head. You're hopeless. His eye twitched, before his face was overcome by a savage grin. Well, since you are all doing too well, time up the pain. The students rapidly paled as two more of him appeared in bursts of smoke. Line break. What happened to you? Yang asked upon seeing the bruised and battered forms of Coco and Velvet. Velvet shot a dark look at Coco, who sighed. Professor Uzumaki. I said something I shouldn't, huh? Sure. Velvet hissed. He's coming. The two girls ducked behind Team JNPR and rwby, and Naruto entered the cafeteria humming lightly. A particular glow surrounding him, and a twinkle in his eye. Did he just get laid? Yang asked. No, Velvet muttered. That's the look he gets when he, as he puts it, rightfully punishes those foolish enough to wrong him. Basically means he's pranked the hell out of someone, Coco groaned. I don't want to go back to our dorm, there's no telling the traps he set. Last time I challenged him, I ended up hanging by my ankles, in the most tasteless orange dress. How did that come about? Ruby asked. The girl's eyes darkened. You don't want to know. She told the professor that there was no way someone who didn't have formal training could get the drop on her. Velvet offered. No formal training? What do you mean? Weiss asked. Professor Uzumaki was raised and trained outside of the kingdom, Velvet said. So instead of graduation a huntsman academy to get his license, he became an apprentice, basically tailed professional huntsman for 2 years, got at least 4 nominations, and helped on at least 15 missions. That got him his journeyman's license. Basically an on-watch huntsman license. He then completed at least 30 missions, and had at least 8 nominations from fully fledged huntsmen. Once that was done he got his license. Not long after that, he had gotten his teaching license as well, though he didn't actually use it until this year, Young said. Know where he's from? Nope. Coco cut in. No one does. That's one of the school's biggest mysteries, though some suspect he's from a village near Atlas, since he hates pretty much everything Atlas, and has a particular disgust for Atlas's headmaster. The general? Weiss asked. I don't know. Coco muttered. Last year, Ironwood visited Beacon, and they swore they heard the professor saying something about Unit 73. Don't know what that means. Are you sure? Weiss asked. Yeah, that's what he said. You know something? Unit 73 was a special forces unit that was contracted to one of my father's scientists. They were wiped out, the lab destroyed and all the data lost. None of them were ever able to return service. The ones that lives were permanently damaged, both physically and mentally. She shuddered. I remember seeing some of them, screaming about the monster. You think he could have been the culprit? Velvet asked. I don't know, Weiss muttered. But if he is, I'll find out. Line break. Glenda sighed as she crossed her arms as she watched her blonde coworker standing at his forge, putting the final touches on a fresh batch of his knives. What he did with them when they were finished, she didn't know. Of all the times she'd been in his personal quarters, she had never seen more than a few. She closed her eyes as her thoughts turned to when she had met the blonde. She, along with Ojbin, Bublek, and Port, had found the blonde fighting off a massive horde of Grimm. Standing guard, over a corpse of all things, they had jumped to his aid, of course. But as she fought, she couldn't help but be in shock at the raw power and skill the man displayed. After they had defeated the horde, he had buried the corpse, and after a quick thank you he had left. She had to snicker at her younger self, being so easily enthralled by what she had thought, mysterious blonde. She had no idea what mysterious was at that time. She shook her head, raising an eyebrow when she saw Naruto waving a hand before her face. Yes? She asked. He chuckled. What are you doing down here? I doubt your crop needs metal work. And you were staring off into space. Did you eat rainbow cookies? No, I didn't. She said, rolling her eyes at the notion of eating the very expensive Rainbow brand that was suggested to only use in private and safe locations, like one's bedroom. I came to get you, and I began remembering the day we met. Oh? He asked with a frown. That was a bad day. Anyhow, what is it you needed? The Council of Vale have called to make their offer again. Naruto gave a grunt. Persistent little worms. She nodded. You never have told just who that woman was. I don't know. He replied. She gave me directions and we went our separate ways. 10 minutes later, I hear a scream, run back, find her dead. Oh, Glenda said. Well, shall we? Naruto asked. She nodded slowly. I'm sorry. She said. For? You deserve better. He laughed, casting his eyes upward. Don't we all? What do you mean by that? Glenda asked. Well, who asked to be born here, in a world overrun by shadows? What did anyone do to deserve to be here? But I suppose it doesn't really matter where we are, or where we're going. What does matter is what we do on our journey. That is what makes us who we are. I could let my pain cloud my vision, and tried to cast an eternal genjutsu on this world to make people think they're happy, or I could actually try to help, to further the generation coming after me. A small smile took over his face, and he glanced at his companion. So let's not fret about what could have been, or what should have been. But instead, focus our efforts on what can be. Glenda smiled, looking at the floor. I think you're an amazing person, you know that? Yup. Came his cheeky reply, accompanied by his trademark, foxy grin. She rolled her eyes as they stepped into an elevator. Line break. What? The old man on screen roared. I thought I made that very clear, he muttered. I mean, if someone told me to go fuck myself, I'd probably accept that they didn't want whatever it was I was offering, or doing. Listen here, boy. The man snarled. We are the clique. Oops. I hung up on them. Ojbin sat, trying, and failing to hide his amusement, while Glenda gave an exasperated sigh. Line break. All right, class. Naruto said, standing with his arms crossed. He grinned wickedly as the third years all shied back. They, no doubt, had heard, and seen, the results of his training with the second years. Today we're heading into the Emerald Forest. You'll be doing a recreation of a test I took when I was 13. But don't worry, it won't be near as dangerous. Yes, Ms. Lean? If you took at 13, how is it dangerous? Because about 60 teams entered the forest for the test. Only about 20 ever left. He said with a wicked grin. We didn't call it the Forest of Death for nothing now. Several of the students paled further. Now this test will be simple. Here, I have a bag for each team. In each bag is a ribbon. Half are red, half are blue. To pass the test, simply return at the end of class with a red and blue ribbon. I will be monitoring you all, to try and make sure no major injuries are incurred. But still, try not to go overboard. Your deaths would make more paperwork for me. You are to keep inside the emerald forest until you see, or hear, the yellow flare. The lesson will start with the red flare. Now, grab your bags, get into the forest and wait for the signal. Go, line break. Are you sure this is a good idea? Glenda asked, pacing back and forth. I mean, I trust him with my life, but his methods are a bit extreme. Ashbin sighed. Yes, I agree. Naruto's methods are extreme, but you know, as well as I do, what is coming. Extreme may be what we need. The generations of huntsmen have been becoming weak, slack. They are not ready for the trials to come, but with his help, I believe, I have faith they will be. And what of the first years? Glenda asked. I have asked that he hold off his harsher methods for the time being. Give them time to adapt, and be eased into what little of his routine they can take. Glenda shuddered. She had seen the blonde's training, she had seen how he trained. There was only one way to describe him, on the battlefield, or training grounds. He was a monster. His strength was otherworldly. His raw power was thick enough to affect the lands around him, and his stamina was near limitless. Her face flushed slightly when she thought of just what he could do with his stamina. Glenda's daydreaming was cut short by Ashbin's chuckle. Thinking of anyone in particular? He asked. Letting out a low growl, she sent a stapler on his desk after him. She was soon rewarded by his cries of mercy. Line break. End of chapter. Story start. Naruto hummed as he looked over the footage of the third years. 4 teams had went into the forest. Luckily, the Emerald Forest was nothing like the Forest of Death. It was tame in comparison. Needless to say, he was pleased that all 40 teams made it out. That would be unfortunate if someone had actually died. While he wouldn't claim to be especially fond of any of the third-year students, he would say that he did care for them. They were his students, thus his responsibility, so he didn't want them to die. And their death would mean more paperwork. Sighing, he watched 3 teams in particular. They were different. They were quick, efficient, quiet, and aware. They had operated smoothly, finding teams and quickly judging if they could take them, then ambushing to the ones they could. The first team had gotten 2 blue ribbons and 3 red ribbons. The second had only gotten 1 blue and 1 red. The third had gotten 3 blue and 1 red. Most of the other teams were effective, but they were more frontal assault-type teams. While they could get through the forest, they weren't home in its confines. Naruto smiled as he began grading the results. He had not told them they would be graded on their teamwork, or plans. That would only inspire them to be different than they would actually be in the field. For every ribbon they got, he would give them 2 points, for good teamwork, 3 points, and for a good plan, 4 points. He nodded as he looked over his finished progress before standing. He had a long day ahead of him. Glenda had called him, asking for help with her combat class. She wanted someone who used martial arts to look over the 4th year's spares. He was glad to help. The woman had helped him more times than he could count. Even when she didn't have to. Line break. It had been 2 weeks since school had started, and Naruto had come across his first major dilemma, Piranikos. By far, she was the most attentive in class. Her teammates, Ren and, surprisingly Nora, were following close behind, along with Team rwby. But, the red-haired Amazonian's leader, was dragging his team down. He along with his team had passed his first test, but he had failed at everything else. His essay had been abysmal. He hadn't asked for much, yet, it was poorly written, and not to mention wrong. He had listed, Stuingar root, the root of a thorny, vine plant, jade blossom, a jade-colored flower, and filsk leaf, a purple plant found by a man named Leonard Filsk, to help keep infection from setting in. They did no such thing. Being able to make thousands of clones, he had, through them, tried every combination possible, at least those he could think of. He remembered that one very vividly. It was one of the few that actually exploded. He sighed. It was clear that thinking on his feet was the youth's only strong point. He was riding on the coattails of his team. Naruto's had struck his desk. If only the blonde youth could understand how important this knowledge truly was. That's it. Naruto thought, I could send them out for a couple of nights. A week maybe. He'll have to see just how much he really needs to know. Yeah, just got to get Ozzy to approve of it. The blonde teacher yawned. It was getting late. Glancing up at the clock, he decided to sleep. Even though he didn't really need it, he had taken after his teacher, who napped whenever the chance arose. Line break. Go! Go! Hurry! Naruto deflected a strike from Madara Uchiha. He grit his teeth at the bone-rattling blow. The man was a monster, but so was he. He returned a strike, which Madara blocked. Naruto gave a crooked grin as he saw the way the Uchiha was shook by the strike. His grin grew as he felt the hatred-filled eyes on him. The Uchiha was powerful, sure, no one could deny that. But he was an Uchiha. His power came from chakra control. Naruto's own power came from his physical conditioning and his raw power. While Madara had a vast amount of power and excellent control, Naruto had an ocean compared to Madara's lake. Whereas Naruto didn't have the skill to defeat Madara, Madara lacked the power to punch through his sludge-like chakra. You can't defeat me! Madara snarled. You can't win either! Naruto snapped back. But I can outlast you. The Uchiha's glare hardened. Why must you stand in my way? I can bring peace to this world. By stripping us of our free will? By locking us in a prison within our minds? That is no peace. That's slavery. There will never be peace when men think like you. Madara flew into a rage. And what would you know about peace? I know your peace has caused 3, now 4 shinobi wars. Naruto cried as he blocked blow after blow from the insane Uchiha. With the Uchiha's Sharingan, there were no openings to exploit. He knew he would have to make one. He had never been more thankful for the training Kurama had put him through. Grinning viscously, he lashed out, using his own chakra, much like Tsunade had used her own, to a smaller degree. Madara was able to block the strike, but could not stand against the mountain-crushing power behind it. The man revered as a god was thrown back. Moving at speeds near the Raikage's lightning armor, he could do little before he smashed into the massive god tree. Naruto felt his heart racing. He knew he had to stop the man, but he had never fought someone so evenly matched. Then again, he'd never been forced to go all out before. He grit his teeth as the Uchiha peeled himself out of the Shinju. As long as that damned Uchiha uses his eyes, I can't beat him, Naruto growled, before an idea rushed to his head. Something the Uchiha clan had been doing for ages. His eyes hardened as he set himself in what he was about to do. Naruto sprinted towards the man. Naruto leaped up, gripping the person over and flipped them so he was on top. His kunai stopped barely a millimeter from the intruder's eye. Both remained frozen, until Naruto leaped back, his heart pounding in his chest. His blade clattered to the floor and he gripped his head, letting loose a scream of pain, fear, and frustration. He felt his teeth lengthening, his eyes sharpen, the bones of his body creaking as his power pressed at its confines. Before, once again, everything froze. Glenda whispered, wrapping her arms around him, pulling his back against her chest. She had always known there was a chance the blonde would react violently upon being woken. It's alright, I'm here. It's over. You're safe. You're here with me. With us. Those who had fought in large wars often suffered similar symptoms. I've got you. Don't worry. You're safe. Still, as much as she cared, and wanted to help, she had to be on guard, her semblance on a hair trigger. He could still react. If he did, she had to be ready. It's okay. I'm here. Don't worry. She whispered to him. Slowly his cries turned to whimpers as he seemed to try and sink deeper into her embrace. Glenda gave a sigh of relief as his breathing finally evened out, and he slipped into the realms of dreams once more. Only, this time a much more peaceful look adorned his face, rather than the scrunched, panicked, and frightened one he had worn when she had come in. Still she sat, running her fingers through his hair, gently teasing his fluffy ears, while she continued to whisper reassurances to the unconscious blonde. Line break. Where's Professor Uzumaki? Ruby asked. She would admit to anyone, through the 3 classes she had been in, the professor had grown on her, as he had with much of the class. Due to some urgent matters, your teacher will not be in today, Glenda said. She had woken in the morning, in his bed. He, of course, was gone. He always went off after he had an especially bad nightmare. She internally sighed. He was doing much better. Instead of having a nightmare every night, it was closer to once every 3 nights, and a terrible one, usually once a month. Did something happen? Pyrrha asked. Something? The blonde witch thought. Something wouldn't even begin to explain what has happened. She shook her head clear of the thoughts. As Mr. Uzumaki is not with us at this time, I will be a temporary replacement. He will, hopefully, return within the next few days. Now I want a 5-page essay on the leaves of cray root bushes, their properties and uses. Due by next class. The class let out a near-unanimous moan. I miss Professor Uzumaki already, Ruby whimpered, with crocodile tears. Line break. The sound of limbs and bark breaking echoed through the dense trees, as a blond male shot through the heavily shadowed woodland. He panted softly as he ran, his breath coming in small, sharp gasps. The roar of his prey drew his attention. He darted to the left, his blond hair folded back from the wind, his burnt orange duster flying out behind him. Finding the beast was easy, given its size, being taller than most buildings. The thing stood at roughly 50 feet tall, having a long, reptilian body. Its neck branched out into 7 stalks, 3 of the stalks branched out into 2 more. Each stalk held a head, giving the beast 10 heads. The beast's 20 eyes fell on him. Fear filled it. Fear was not something grim we're used to feeling. The fear was primal, like that of a mouse, only inches away from the awaiting maw of a hunting fox. And like the mouse, the beast knew, escape was near impossible. The thing before it was far superior than itself. But the primal fear forced it to do what it had never done before. It turned to flee, only to find the thing before it. It recoiled, and the being in human skin vanished, appearing before it. The thing's fist impacted the Hydra Grim's chest, launching it back as pain erupted through its chest. The Grim roared, spurred into action. It knew it could not escape, so the Grim would fight a hopeless fight. 3 of its heads shot forward, spitting acid at the being that attacked it. Again, the being vanished, only to appear where the neck connected with the body. It smashed its hand through the scales that had stopped every weapon thrown at it, and wrapped its fingers around the Hydra's spine. The beast's 10 heads roared in pain, only to be cut short as the being pulled. A loud, hollow crack filled the forest, and the being vanished, leaving the corpse to disperse into black smoke. Line break. Ashbin stood looking out his window. So he said. How long will he be gone? Glenda shook her head. I heard him say his name. 2-3 days maybe. Sighing, Ashbin nodded. I see. I wish there was more that we could do. There's no one that has dealt with what he has. Ashbin nodded. Yes, he has told me precious little of his life. His warm, chocolate eyes darkened and hardened. Being raised in a village where he was burned alive, for something that he couldn't control. Ashbin was not a man who hated many things, but he would gladly slaughter the people of his blonde friends past. He was surprised the blonde hadn't did it himself. It spoke volumes of the blonde's hope. Hope for humanity, the race that had made his life hell, the same race that he still fought, tooth and nail for. Closing his eyes, Ashbin sighed. Had he been in the blonde's shoes, he would have broke long ago. He had done so before he had went into hiding, before he had created the maidens. He clenched his fists. He had grown disgusted at the human race, and become no better than his foe, but the blonde had endured far more than he could comprehend. And he still pressed onwards. He still hoped. Turning away, the silver-haired man sighed. We should prepare for his return. Have Vakoa send their best noodles. He will enjoy some quality ramen, chuckling idly at the blonde's ramen obsession. Line break. Naruto panted as he destroyed the yet another ancient grim. He looked around, not seeing any more. He was about to scream in rage, before he saw where he stood. Swallowing, he turned to face an alcove of trees. Cupped in their protective embrace, stood a tall stone, carved into an elegant sword, piercing the ground, behind an equally elegant shield. He trembled slightly, walking slowly forward. Had he really been running so fast, so far? Had he really been reaching the speeds of his brethren at home? He didn't know. He didn't know why he was here. Here again. The place that marked his greatest failure. He dropped to his knees before the sword and shield, his head resting on the shield. Pain filled him. Pain welling from his heart, it filled his chest, flowing through his body as thick as his once mortal blood. He didn't cry, he didn't wail. He was silent, as his mind flashed back on the times shared with the woman buried underneath the stone. Naruto looked up from where he leaned against the wall. He had just turned 25, as well as having just gotten his huntsman license. This was his first mission as an official huntsman. His eyes snapped to the woman who exited the door he stood beside. He grinned, looking at his partner, a girl who had graduated from Haven Academy, blonde. She spoke. He grinned. Gale. Nice to meet you, she nodded. You as well. I hear you were under Crow Brahman. I do hope you show why exactly he chose to take you under his wing. He chuckled. Well, I hope I don't have to. Stepping away from the wall, his eyes hardened. We're just supposed to be clearing a small best 30 Ursa, good give or take, correct? Yes. But there have been a few Death Stalkers spotted. Nothing larger than a beta, alright. He said. I can do close to medium range. I can do close and long range. She said, motioning to the sword at her hip, and the thick arm guard on her left arm, which when she clenched her fist, it snapped out, making a circle shield, then snapped back shut. Then she motioned to the rifle strapped across her back. Naruto nodded. Good. My weapons are these, he said, flipping a kunai into the air. And this. He stated, catching the knife, and motioning to the katana sheathed at his hip, a blade he had forged himself, as well as inlaid seals throughout the weapon. He had done his best to recreate a weapon he had gotten from the ruins of Yuzugakure. Unfortunately, it did not make it through to this world. And medium range? Gale asked. He threw one of his kunai, sinking it into a bird in flight, nearly 300 paces away. The dark-haired woman hummed, impressed. How many do you have, including that one? 26. I've yet to make another batch. Unfortunately, they don't last as long as I'd like. I usually lose one every 3 missions. She nodded. I can provide cover fire. Take out the largest and scragglers, if you want to deal with the fodder. Naruto nodded. In truth, he didn't need the woman, but the company was appreciate, as was the challenge of working with a new person. It helped that she was very beautiful. The snapping of a twig snapped Naruto of his memories. His head snapped back to the K-Truder, before he sighed, standing, not meeting the woman's eyes. She wouldn't blame you. You know? The woman states. She always spoke of you, how you were the greatest huntsman she had met. Your not meeting her claimed nothing would hold you back. Gritting his teeth, Naruto closed his eyes, before he did what he had been doing for the past several years. Vanishing in a burst of speed. He ran. He ran from his past. He ran from his past. From his failure. In the elemental nations, he had never failed, not truly. He was always able to find some way to turn the situation around. Gale was truly the first time he had utterly failed. He didn't know how to deal with it. He didn't know how to move on. Story end. For years ago, I may have agreed with you. But then I really started looking into the history of mankind. Sure, mankind have done great things, but they have also done horrible things. We all, in America, should know about the Salem witch trials, where innocent people were burned, drowned, and hung, because someone thought they might be a witch. During the crusade, heretics were killed in all manner of ways, even being tied down to broken wagon wheels, and having their bones broken, starting with their wrists and ankles. Then most of the time, they were left to die slowly. Commonly carrion birds would begin to eat them before they died. Some were sawed in half, others ripped apart. In India, they used to train elephants to crush people, by stepping on them, starting with the limbs, and slowly moving to the torso. So the reason I wrote what I did, it wasn't just to add backstory, or something like that. It was because that is only a small part of what really would have happened in a situation like that. As for the third, and Danzo, what would they really have to worry about? You have a being that can literally destroy entire mountain ranges, sealed inside a child, and its power is being used to keep the child alive. In my opinion, you would need something with power equal to, or greater than said being before you became a threat to the child. Besides, have you thought about, and I mean, really thought about what the people of Konoha would be thinking? Firstly, the third Hokage fought in both the second and third Shinobi Wars. The citizens of Konoha, older than 30, when Naruto was born, have probably seen war, have seen the devastation and destruction caused by the Jinchuriki, who, they no doubt saw as demons in human skin. Then shortly after the war ends, and I say shortly, because from what I have seen, it is implied that Minato fought in the third war as well, and was still fairly young when he died. I would say there had been no more than 10 years of an unsteady peace. Anyway, shortly after the war ends, another demon appears, kills much of the village, causes mass destruction, and then kills their beloved leader, who managed to defeat it. Now after all that you learn, that not only Olus the demon, not dead, but like the others, wearing human skin, and is in your very village. In that situation, I would be furious. I would want to have revenge on the thing that had taken so much from me, and my village. I would do anything, and everything in my power, to kill it. Sorry if this sounds like a rant, it's not meant to be, but to be more informative. I simply want readers to, not only read, and enjoy what I write, but really, truly, think about what it would be, what it would mean, to be in the position of the characters, all the characters, because I feel, then they can understand them. Now as for Glenda being a rebound girl. Honestly, I've never had a lot of experience getting feedback when writing. So I don't know if I'm writing romance right. I hope I am, but I don't know. As for my plans for the plot of Naruto and Glenda, first of all, one must understand, in my version, Kurama helps Naruto much sooner. He still has training from Kakashi, Jiraiya and everyone else who contributes, but he's not as close to them as he is in the anime. Instead of him seeing Jiraiya as his godfather, or even father figure, he sees him as a friend and a teacher. So his death, while it hurts him, isn't as potent as it could have been. Meaning Gale is the first, really personal death he's had to deal with. My plans are basically to have Glenda, the staff of Beacon, and the teams rwby, JNPR and possibly some other, help him accept and move past Gale's death. Then once that is accomplished, he will be able to live his own life, and be, essentially, free of what he sees as his greatest failure. Then, and only then, do I plan on letting the Naruto-Glida relationship move forward. But like I said, I have very little experience writing such things, so I would very much appreciate all the help I can get in that regard. The reason I waited several days to reply this comment was because, first, honestly, it kinda pissed me off. So I wanted to wait until I felt I was calm enough to reply, in a manner that would be fitting, that, hopefully, could be understood, and in a way that I could explain my thoughts, my reasonings, and purposes for doing what I did. That being said, I hope you did understand, and anyone else who was of the same thoughts. If you have any questions about the story, feel free to ask. I will do my best to answer. Story start. Naruto sat on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the city of Vale. His eyes hardened in his thoughts. He watched the people going about their business. Normal, human, eyes wouldn't be able to see the distance. His, however, were not normal, nor were they human. He chuckled drily at the thought, my eyes haven't been human for a long time. His mind slowly shifted back, lingering on Gale. He sighed, knowing the next few days would be troublesome. Hopping up, he turned away from the city and headed towards the school, only mildly surprised at seeing Glenda approaching him. How are you feeling? Glenda asked softly. I'm feeling fine, he replied before she wrapped her arms around him. Thank you, he muttered before yet another dry chuckle escaped his lips. You're always taking care of a baka like me. I really don't thank you enough. Well, she said, stepping away. As your superior, it is my job to watch out for you. She turned around. And, as your friend, I will do anything I can to help you. Thank you? I really don't deserve you guys. Smiling softly, he added. I guess I should head back. I probably have work to grade. Yes. You do, she replied. Line break. After having his clones help him with the large amount of work left by Glenda, having worked through the night, he prepared for his next class. Normally, someone would be less than happy with what she had left for him to do. He, however, was grateful. He was able to focus on his work, and not other things. Sitting at his desk, he waited the last few minutes for the bell to ring. Once it did, it wasn't very long until the students clamored into the class. Professor Uzumaki! Ruby cried out in joy. You're back. Yes, your skills of observation aside, I apologize for disappearing like that. Will it happen again? Yang asked in a low tone. 'Cause if it does, there will be words. He raised an eyebrow. And you, a first-year student, are going to what? She lifted her chin high. Well, I do have the highest score in physical strength. He raised an eyebrow. That didn't answer my question, Yang glared. I meant I would kick your ass, MIC. Anyway, does anyone have anything intelligent to add? He asked. Blake gripped Yang's shoulder, keeping her from attacking the other blonde. He doesn't view you as a threat, Yang. He is much stronger than he lets on. He's an S-class huntsman, like Ashbin, but his semblance has never been seen, Yang pouted. How would you know? I did a little digging while he was gone, she replied. The bell rang again, interrupting any further conversation. Well, class is in session, Naruto said. I have prepared a written test for you all. However, like my class, this test will not be any standard test. I encourage you to discuss with your team about your tests, especially as I have crafted them to not only suit the individual, but to concern the team as well. Of course, they are nothing too special. I don't know you all well enough to make it more than a basic version. From the west wall, please come forward and collect your tests. They are already labeled with your name, as well as your team's name. Luckily, the students seem to have remembered which direction was which, or at least enough that those who didn't see Medto catch on. Before everyone had been seated, the murmurs started. Naruto closed his eyes and leaned back. Each test had 20 questions, the 10th and 20th both were questions with no true answer. Each, he tried to fashion for the specific person. For Pira, a very honest, honorable, and loving person, the question was, she stands in a room, the room has two paths, one leads to her team, the other to a group of civilians. When one door is opened, the opposite room will detonate, killing those inside. She can only save one group. Which group? For Ruby, she must choose which teammate she wishes to save, having 3 choices, each one will kill the other 2. For Whis, she must choose between saving herself, or sacrificing herself to save another, unnamed person. Yang's was a bit harder for him to do, with her having a party girl attitude, but a caring interior. She was more unpredictable, so he gave her the question of saving thousands, or saving her sister. Blake, on the other hand, he gave a standard, personality question, of whether or not to push a fat man off a bridge to save 5 others, or let the train hit the 5 others. Having known her history, he knew she had seen true horrors. She had already been forced to make impossible choices before. John, he gave questioned if he would save his sister, or his love. Ren and Nora, he asked if they would save the other, or many civilians. Professor Uzumaki, Ruby said, raising her hand. Can I ask why you have these questions? Naruto sat still and silent for several moments, before he stood. I wrote those, because one day, you may well be faced with such a decision. I put those in the test, because I wanted you, all of you, to think about what you're getting into. One day, you may have to choose, between saving 20 civilians, or your family, maybe your friends, your lover perhaps. The life of a hunter, a huntsman, a huntress, is made out to be wonderful, and great. And while you may have amazing adventures, wonderful times, even better memories, you may also have terrible situations, horrible choices, and grim deaths. I've come across ruined settlements, found children, whose skin is still smoldering from fires. I've found the corpses of fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, many times, trying to protect someone with their dying breaths. I've had companions die. I've had to make some horrible choices before. My job is prepare you for your future. So I made this test to force you to think, what will you do when you are faced with an impossible choice? Neither is wrong, nor is either correct. No matter which you choose, you will have to live with the knowledge that it was you who decided the dates of those who died. How do you deal with it? Blake asked. He bit his lip, turning away. Sometimes I can accept that I have to become a monster to do my duty, other times I cannot. I have people who I can lean on when I need, and I will offer support when they need. What if your choices still haunts you? Blake asked so slowly. He closed his eyes, sitting back down. That's something I can't tell you how to deal with, he sighed. When will we have to make these choices? Ruby asked. Maybe tomorrow, but hopefully never. Just because you may never face it, is not a reason to be unprepared. However, as I said, the questions I gave you are impossible, Naruto stated. There's precious little you can do to prepare for something like that. The best I can do is try to make sure, if it ever happens, you don't freeze. Yan stood slowly. Aren't we a little young to be learning this? Naruto cocked an eyebrow. I was, along with the other graduates, were expected to fight and even kill if need be at the age of 13. If anything, to me, you're a little old to be learning this. At your age, I had already lost loved ones, I had fought terrorists, I had to kill criminals. I won't sugarcoat what the life of a hunter is. There are people who could kill every one of you right now, and some would, for little more reason than they were bored. His eyes were hard as he gazed through the class. You may have to make a choice soon, and then, there will be no, too young. I aim to prepare you for the worst that can come, and hope to guide the world to the best. Yes, Mr. Ark? You're talking like you expect to die soon, John said nervously. Most hunters die before they reach 35. He stated. Being a huntsman, Mr. Ark, is not all daisies and rainbows. To survive past the life expectancy of a hunter, you must be both at your best, physically and mentally. As hunters, it is our sworn duty to protect the people of Remnant. That means keeping our bodies and minds prepared. There is no time to slack off, and as I've heard some say, take it easy. Taking it easy will allow you to get weak slow. I took it easy once, and I paid dearly for it. He crossed his arms, his eyes coming through the students, sighing. He shook his head. I want you all to take the time left in my class to think about the life you have chosen. You will have to make hard choices. You will have to live by a strict routine. Ruby stood, shaking slightly. I won't be scared by your words. I will protect everyone I can. Naruto stared at the girl for a moment. Thank you, Ms. Rise. I do believe I have my next lesson planned. Line break. So Glenda said slowly, as she sat with her colleagues. How has your day been, Peter? The porky man set his cup down and loosed a boisterous laugh. It has been spectacular. I took the third-year students on a hunt into the Emerald Forest. It also seems that Naruto's training has paid off as well. They were far more aware. Speaking of which, where is he? I don't know. Manita Peach spoke, tilting her head, making her pink hair bob slightly. I seen him in the halls after his classes ended. He seemed distracted. He is. Bartholomew spoke. Unfortunately, I do not know how to help him. Perhaps Glenda? You have the most experience dealing with him. The blonde woman drowned. Right now he doesn't want to be found. I see. The green-haired man spoke. You are the one who knows him the most. I would advise that you talk to him. He needs someone right now. He took a sip from his mug. If I were in that position, I would need someone to talk to, even if I didn't know it. Glenda blinked a few times, before she smiled, nodding her head. Thank you, doctor, I think I will. He nodded. Good. It will be well to have the old Naruto back. Line break. Glenda allowed herself to sink down to the roof on the tallest tower of Beacon. She nervously walked forward, before sitting beside Naruto. Using her semblance, she pulled the blonde into her, and wrapped her arms around him. Neither said anything for a moment as Glenda held him. What can I do for you? Naruto asked with a shaky breath. I just came up here to let you know, you're not alone. You can talk about it if you want. She replied softly. I see. He murmured. Am I too harsh on the students? Maybe, but you get results. I gave them impossible questions. He said. Are they too young to be thinking about that? She snorted. No. If Beacon or Vale fell under attack, they might have to make those choices. We may hope they never have to make a choice with no answer, but they are never too young. Life may not wait for them. I see. Naruto continued to make idle conversation for several hours as the sun sank, while Glenda spoke softly and kindly to him. Staring up at the moon, Naruto spoke softly. I had planned to propose after the mission, you know? Glenda said nothing as he sat, taking shaky breaths, and tears silently fell from his face. I could have saved her, I could have done more, but I was too concerned with being human. Naruto, it wasn't your fault. Glenda said sternly. He snorted. I'm beyond human, Glenda. He said. It took me a while to accept that, but I am. I won't die, not like anyone else on Remnant, and if someone manages to kill me, I'll reform. I could have been faster, I could have healed her. I could bring her back. Bring her back? Glenda asked, shocked, with wide eyes. Yeah, I never told you about that, did I? He sighed. There are ways to bring the dead back to life. I have fought armies of those who were reanimated, and those resurrected. It's a disgusting technique. And I almost did it, but I couldn't bring myself to defile her soul like that. To rip it from the Pure Lands. He shook his head. Naruto, Glenda spoke slowly. There was nothing you could have done. She looked over at him, and her breath caught in her throat. A pair of blonde fox ears sat on his head, and a pair of blonde tails swayed behind him. He lifted a hand, glaring at the claws that sprouted on his fingers. I have all this power, but because I wanted to be human, to be normal, I let her die. I might as well have killed her. He chuckled darkly. What have I become? I was a warrior. I would fight no matter what, but now I run from myself. Is this what he felt, I wonder? Naruto. Glenda spoke, her voice carrying as much power as she could muster. You're Naruto Uzumaki. It doesn't matter what you are, but who you are. This isn't you, are a caring man, who will do anything to help. You may have lost your way, but I have seen the depths you will go to help. You used to stop by orphanages, to bring snacks and play tricks. You would never pass up someone who needed help. That's what she loved about you. Gale died doing what she loved, she was helping people. If she saw you, what would she say? She'd be disappointed. You're wallowing in shame and self-loathing. That isn't the Naruto she loved, nor the Naruto she admired. So stop your selfishness, and get your act together. Do what she would want you to do, and keep pushing on. Make her proud. Be the man you once were. Be the Naruto she fought for. Standing carefully, she said, We miss the old you, Naruto. End story. Story start. Naruto stood under a forever fall tree, watching as Gale's bullhead approached. The winds of the flying machine stirred the loose leaves from the tree, scattering the crimson leaves around him. His smile broadened as he saw Gale watching him out the window, her mouth agape, for some strange reason, but he would worry about that later. He was simply pleased to see his girlfriend of 3 months. The bull had landed and the ramp lowered. Gale stepped onto the soft earth below, smiling as she approached Naruto, who had left the shade of the tree in favor of meeting her. Miss me? She asked. Nope, he replied in a snarky tone. I guess I'll leave then. She teased, turning away, only to fall back as Naruto wrapped his arms around her. Of course I missed you. He chuckled, and laid a gentle kiss on the corner of her mouth. A melodic laugh escaped her lips. I know, Foxy. Leaning her head back onto his shoulder, she smiled up at him. So I talked to my parents. They want to meet you. Do they know? No? She asked. Oh no, they don't. I think they would be a little upset if they knew my boyfriend was a demon lord. Bijou, he growled into her ear, before nipping at it. You turn into a giant fox, and can cause more damage than our most powerful weapon, she said, running a hand through her dark brown hair. Sounds like a demon lord to me. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, you and Crow got been calling me that now. She pumped her fist. That means Porky owes me. You bet on Ozzy? Hell yeah. She laughed, pulling away, and spun around. Oh, I found these awesome chips in the straw. You have to try them. Naruto woke with a start. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face, and gave a grunt. He sighed as he stood from his bed, heading into his shower, where he let steaming water pour down his bare body. Find something to make me happy? He muttered, remembering Glinda's words from the night before. Standing under what would have been scalding water for any normal person, Naruto slowly rolled his shoulders, and stretched his body. He could feel his joints popping as he did so. This would probably be a foolish thing for any normal person to do, but he knew he had very little to worry about. Even if it did affect him, his regeneration would keep him in top condition. Slowly washing himself, his mind wandered through his options. He knew what Glenda had said was true. Him letting himself sink into despair was dishonoring Gale. He knew that she would not want him doing so, but he thought, almost absent-mindedly. It's so difficult when I could have saved her, but I chose not to. He shook his head of his thoughts. They would do him no good at the moment. He needed to figure out how he was going to fix himself, how he was going to find something to help him get through his pain. Now dressed, and sitting on his bed, he gave a soft sigh. I've really lost track of myself, he muttered. I used to be so much more. He glared down at his hands, looking deep inside himself. He felt the sensation that had once been familiar to him. Falling through nothingness, he opened his eyes, standing before a massive pair of opened, red cell doors. He looked around through the sewer, seeing the pipes running through, each nearly bursting with a dark, crimson power. Focusing on the open cage, where a sea of power swirled. Looking like a hurricane in an ocean of red. He could feel his power. The whispers of his past flowed through him as he sat in the water. Closing his eyes, he listened. Line break. Glenda, Ojben, Peter, and Bartholomew dashed through the halls. They had each received the notification, that particular alarm sounding from their scrolls and personal quarters. That power was back. The students, curious of what was happening, watched as they stopped before a door, and Glenda waved her crop, sending the door flying into the room. Ojben's eyes widened, seeing Naruto seeming to be lost in meditation, a thick crimson aura spiraling around him, and three tails waving behind him. He had only seen him with three tails once before. That had been years ago, shortly after he arrived. The blonde's crimson eyes snapped open, and a savage grin came over his face. He stood slowly, as Glenda stepped forward. Naruto? She asked. Is something wrong? Having had witnessed his power firsthand, the three male teachers were, understandably, nervous, wondering if it would be possible to stop him if he went on a rampage. Wrong? Came Naruto's soft, distorted reply. No. I was just looking into myself. He stated as he reeled his power, along with his ears and tails in. I think I may have found it. Found what? Ojben asked slowly. A purpose. Came his simple reply. Line break. Hey, did you hear what happened this morning? Yan asked. Not much, just that some teachers were running through the halls and broke into a room for some reason. Why, do you know something? Pyrrha replied, poking at her pancakes. No, I was hoping you heard something. Yan sighed, leaning back. Man, I was hoping for something juicy. Well, maybe we should ask one of the teachers. Ruby said. No. Yan gasped, gripping Ruby's shoulders, shaking her. That's something that you never do. Why? The red-themed girl squeaked. Because they're teachers. Yan said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Okay, Ruby muttered, still confused. Line break. Alright. I bet you're all wondering why we're outside. Naruto said as he grinned devilishly at the first years. Well, that's because, while knowing what plant does what, and how to use them is well and good, however, if you can't survive long enough to find them, they're useless. That being said, I've got something for you. In the Emerald Forest, there are an abundance of green sprout, meal fig, and redwort. Each is a key component in the making of healing agents. Each of you will collect 6 of each, and clean them. He waved to a large box. In there are packs, you will take 1 each. In them you will find 3 boxes for your collected herbs, 4 bottles of water, 1 for yourself, and the 3 for cleaning the plants. Return in 2 hours. I will be watching you all to make sure nothing too serious befalls you. Line break. Naruto sat, sorting through the memories of his clones. Clone 1 stalked through the underbrush, carefully watching his prey. The grass parted before him and in he pounced. Naruto shook his head, annoyed that one of his clones had decided to roleplay as an actual fox, using the henge jutsu. Clone 1.1, a clone that Clone 1 made, felt a slight irritation at his creator who was off, doing Kami knows what. He focused himself on the task of following Team rwby. He found himself amused as Blake kept looking around, trying to spot him. What's wrong, Blakey? Yang asked. Something's following us, she replied, but I can't find it. How can you be sure? Weiss asked. I grew up outside the kingdoms, came her reply. You get a sense for things. Clone 1.1 nodded. Even before Naruto arrived on Remnant, he'd acquired a sense of awareness. However, he wasn't a master of stealth for nothing. It would take someone on, or near his level, to find him, when he didn't wish to be found. He leaped to another tree, quick enough that, even had they been looking, they wouldn't have been able to see him. The team of girls set up near a creek. Taking out the books they had brought, they began looking through them to find the herbs Naruto had specified. Weiss let out a growl of frustration. These are all herbs that's hard to find. They all have counterparts that look similar, but are poisonous. I wonder why he would send us to get herbs like that. Blake asked. It's obviously a test, Ruby replied, holding up a finger. He wants to know if we're actually paying attention. I think he'd be able to tell that pretty easily, Weiss snorted. I think he's just a sadistic bastard. Haven't you heard the kind of training he put the upper classes through? Oh, come on, Yang groaned. It's obviously helped. I mean, they all seem to be thankful for it. Weiss crossed her arms. That would not pass an Atlas. And we've all heard what Professor Naruto thinks of Atlas. Blake said. Yeah, Ruby said. What did he call them? Ornaments, Yang replied. They look pretty, but shatter when you drop them. I've never seen Atlas soldiers in action, so I can't say if I agree with him or not. Anyway, point is, Blake said, this is Beacon, not Atlas. But still, I don't think he. Well, look what we have here. The girls spun to see a dark-haired man stepped out of the tree line. His eyes a dark brown. In his hand was gripped a long, thin double-edged sword. For new toys for my collection. Who are you? Ruby asked, pulling out Crescent Rose. Oh, you know, just a man looking for a good time. The three others readied their weapons, causing the man to frown. You should have just laid down and waited. Oh well. It's more fun this way. He dashed forward, surprising them with his speed. Ruby flashed before him with her semblance, aiming to interrupt his charge. Swinging Crescent Rose, her surprise showed as he ducked under the strike and sent a slash up, across her chest. She cried out in surprise and pain as she was thrown back, against the tree. You bastard! Yang screamed, jumping at the man, her hair alight with power, throwing her fist back for a punch. He laughed as he dodged away, nailing her gut with a punch of his own. Yang was left hanging in the air, wide-eyed, as her breath had been forcefully removed. She slumped down in a daze as the man laughed maniacally. Clone 1.1 watched as Weiss and Blake attempted to outmatch the hinged clone. Weiss attacked his left while Blake took his right. He dodged Blake's swing and diverted Weiss's thrust, before palm thrusting Blake away, and sweeping Weiss's feet out from under her. She cried out as he went to stab through her midsection, only to be interrupted by Ruby's side. He laughed, jumping away. You're making this more difficult than it needs be, he said darkly. If you come quietly, I promise I'll sell you to a good owner. Sell? Ruby asked, surprised. You're a slaver? He cackled. Did you just figure that out? Ha. You'll make a good toys. Stay away from my sister, you freak. Yang snarled, dropping from above. The henge clone rolled out of the way, just in time to be swatted by Ruby's sides, sending him through a tree. This is not what I wanted, the man growled. I think I'll have better luck cutting you up and selling your organs. He dashed, kicking Ruby away from the others, knocking each of the girls in a different direction. Clone 1.1 watched as they tried to regroup, but, like before, were knocked back again and again. We can't beat him, Weiss muttered. He's too fast, Yang growled. To strong, Blake added, panting. What do we do? Run, Ruby replied with grim determination. With my speed, I can hold him off. Run. Get to safety. No. Yang snapped. I won't. Weiss stared in shock, obviously not having expected the child to do something so noble. Blake glared. I won't run. Not from this. I'm not abandoning my team. Go. That is an order. Ruby nearly screamed, tears falling from her face. Just go. The three gasped as the dark-haired man appeared before Ruby, while said girls stared in horror. He set a hand on the girl's head. You pass, he stated. What? He gave a cheesy grin. I was called by an old friend to test you for, though I guess I may have overdone it. As a huntress, you may be required to risk, or even give your life. You just proved you have what it takes. I'm proud to call you comrade. Ruby fell to her knees, her tears flowing freely. Oh shit, the henge clone gasped. Acting quickly, knowing what was happening, Clone 1.1 jumped before Weiss, Blake and Yang, throwing up a chakra shield as the area was flooded with white. As the light faded, Clone 1.1 muttered. Well, shit, didn't expect it that soon. What was that? Yang cried. Boss will explain. Boss? Blake asked. Yeah, I'm just a clone. What? The three girls cried as Clone 1.1 lifted an unconscious Ruby. Turning to the three girls, he nodded. But don't tell anyone, he wants it to stay a secret. Naruto sighed. That's why I've been getting messages from them. He began looking through his other clones' memories. Clone 3 stood on the underside of a branch, listening to the idle chatter of Team ZMFY. What do you think the point is? Zen asked. Point? What do you mean? Felicia asked in reply. I mean, Professor Uzumaki usually has some kind of test worked into his classes. I wonder what the point of this one will be. Zen clarified. Well, Monty started. If he does have one, it will be useful. He doesn't seem to like wasting time on us. Almost everything's done in class has a purpose, aiming to help us achieve greater heights. Hey guys! I found our last red wart. Jasper called, and she totally missed Monty's speech. Zen sighed. The sound of massive footsteps pulled the attention of the teens, seeing a large grim coming towards them. Standing on two legs, it lumbered forward, pushing trees out of the way with two of its forearms. Its body had armor covering everything save its joints. Well, shit, Zen said before it lunged at the four, who all dodged out of the way. We need to get out of here. It's old judging by the armor. Zen called. Monty! You lead. I'll take the rear. Her team, acting quickly, following her orders, took off through the forest. Clone 3 chuckled to himself, amused that the hinged clone had chosen the form of an elder grim. Leaping from the tree he was hanging on, he flipped and landed silently, and dashed after the four students, being chased by his partner, easily catching up with the team. He kept pace with them as the beast barreled through the trees. Idly remembering the training Anko had put him through, after taking him off the streets. He chuckled as they realized they couldn't outrun the thing. Felicia! Use your semblance to find Naruto. Monty! Once he's located, go find him. We can hold it for a bit. Hurry! Clone 3 narrowed his eyes, and quickly hinged into a locust, clinging to a tree. He watched as Felicia's eyes glowed for a moment while Zen, Monty, and Jasper distracted the hinged clone. Found him! She called. 3,100 meters northwest, a light. I'll be back quickly. Monty called, dashing away, only to be interrupted when the hinged clone moved faster than they thought possible for something that size, and backhanded him into a tree. Zen paled slightly, trying to find a way to beat a grim that had, possibly, centuries worth of experience. 4 arms but only 1 head. We have to surround it. If you can attack from the back, again, following her orders, they did as she commanded. Clone 3 was impressed with Monty's resilience, though a bit slower than before. He was moving. He watched as the 4 teens did their best to fight off the hinged clone. After nearly a minute of combat though, he was sure, for the kids, it felt more like hours. The hinged clone struck, aiming a powerful clawed hand at Felicia. Both Zen and Jasper jumped to what they knew was a useless defense, while Monty did his best to slow it. Not that it did enough to matter. The 4 let out bated breath when they found that they were not dead, and instead the grim had stopped, and stood straight. What is happening? Felicia asked with fear in her voice. You passed. Clone 3 stated, leaping from a tree. You can go now, he said, and the grim exploded in white smoke. Passed? Zen asked. What do you mean? I mean, I called in some help, to test each team. Last time, I gave you all impossible questions. Today, I was seeing how far you would go to protect someone. You all passed. You're a fucking lunatic. Jasper screamed. Clone 3 shrugged. Well, how else would you be prepared? I could not do this, and not know who will actually do their job in the field, and possibly have several freeze with their first life or death situation. Or I could do this, and prepare you for the future. Naruto shook his head. The clone wasn't exactly wrong, but it wasn't the purpose of the test, only a facet. His purpose was to see who was willing to die for their partner, who really understood the meaning of being a hunter. He smiled, letting the memories of his other, favorite teen play through his head. Clone 14 watched from his roost, as he watched Team GNPR trek through the woods. John, completely unaware of his surroundings, while the other 3 were on alert. John Pira said. You really need to pay more attention to your studies. You're already failing in Professor Naruto's class. What? Pfft. I am not, he said. Does he know we can see all our team's grades on our scrolls? Nora asked. What? You can? John cried. Shh. Pira hissed. You'll alert every grim within a mile of our presence. Well, sorry, I just found out my team is looking at my scores without my knowledge. He hissed. Besides, why should we need to know all of that? It's not like hunters do anything too dangerous, John said, trying to word his question carefully. Where did you learn about hunters? He laughed. Where everyone does. The stories, duh. His 3 companions froze. Hey, what's taking? Pira clapped a hand over his mouth. Should hear that? Ren nodded as the sound of blades clashing echoed softly through the woods. Sounds like we weren't the first ones to find a prize. Team GNPR turned to see 6 white Fawn members standing barely 20 meters away. The tallest, obviously the leader of the small troop, motioned at the teens, saying, Get them, boss man will be happy for a more workforce and entertainment. Clone 14 watched as the 5 weaker hinged clones charged to attack the teens. Nora, Rin, and Pira, however, dealt with them easily, and they were soon in the ground, pretending to be unconscious. Geez, why am I always stuck with the weak ones? The leader asked. Who sent you? John demanded. Pira, Nora, and Rin deadpanned. Really? The henge clone asked. We need to take this guy out. Pira said. The 5 were grunts. They won't know anything, but he will. The white fanned look-alike pulled on a pair of armored gloves. All right. Let's get to it, gorgeous. He said. He fights close range. Take him from a distance. John said, switching their weapons to a ranged mode. The 3 proper members of the team let loose a hail of bullets and grenades, each that the man dodged effortlessly. How is he doing that? John cried. Intense training, Pira replied, all trying to get a shot to land. This is getting annoying. The faunus growled, before dashing forward, a dog-like tail trailing behind him. He attacked Nora first, feinting a punch which she tried to block, only for her legs to be swept out from under her, and an elbow slammed into her gut, helping her to the ground. Rin tried to attack and defend his childhood friend, only for all his punches, kicks and slashes to be deflected. Pira soon joined in, followed by a recovered Nora. Still their strikes proved useless. The henge clone leaped into the air, kicking Rin and Nora away, before bringing his 2 fists down at Pira's head, which she blocked with her shield barely, but was still thrown to the ground. He gave her a solid kick, sending her rolling. John stood trembling, holding his sword before him as the henge clone walked towards him. The clone was interrupted by Ren and Nora, who attacked from both sides simultaneously. He caught Nora's hammer, and both of Ren's blades twisted. He ripped the weapons from the surprised teen's hands, and slammed their heads together, knocking them down, in a heavy daze. His approach on an increasingly pale John was interrupted by a shield, flying like a frisbee. He dodged the disc, glaring at Piraz, who was leaning heavily against the tree, holding her side. She pulled her sword from the dirt with her free hand and advanced slowly. Her face set in a grim snarl. She attacked with fluid movements despite being injured. The henge clone fought for several moments, dodging the flying buzzsaw, until he kicked her away, knocking her into tree. Turning back to John, he watched with a bored face as John trembled and dropped his sword, and turned to run. Clone 14 sighed, and dashed in front of the blonde teen and delivered a swift chop to his neck, knocking him unconscious. Piraz's eyes widened. Professor Y. Leaning John against the tree, Clone 14 waved, and the henge clone nodded. Turning away, he walked off, followed by the 5 others. This, Clone 14 said, was a test. I called in some help to test the different teams, to put them in a situation where they thought they and their team would die, or worse. It was a test to see who knew what it meant to be a hunter. You 3 passed. Mr. Ark did not. However, with proper training, he could become a true hunter, but only if he is really willing to put the effort in. And if he's not? Piraz asked slowly. Most won't know this until the end of the first semester, but my class is 25% of their overall grade. They need at least 80%. You'll fail him. Why? It's my job to ensure you are ready to face what's out there. Until you are, I can't let you pass. That goes for everyone. I see, Pira muttered, before hissing slightly. I think he broke a few ribs. Clone 14 walked over to her and knelt, placing his hand on her bruised side. Hold still, he said. What are you? She let out a soft moan as a warm feeling poured into her chest. She could feel the bones slide back together and mend without pain, as well as the feeling of every bruise or scratch be healed. Clone 14 pulled his hand away and helped her stand. I feel amazing. What was that? She asked. My power, if handled correctly, can have that effect. That's amazing. I've never heard of anyone with a healing aura. Clone 14 laughed. Come on, let's gather your team. We need to take them back. She nodded. All right. Naruto hummed as he thought about Team JNPR's results. They were now just behind Team rwby, who he gave each Ruby, Yang, and Blake 5 points, while taking 2 from Whis. Team JNPR, he gave Nora, Pira, and Rin 4 points, and took 5 from John. They had been ahead, but now, they were a mere 2 points behind the all-girl team. Speaking of single-gender teams, he sighed as he looked over Team CRDL. They had been tripping over themselves trying to get away from, as they said, a rabid fox. Clone 1 was mere moments away from his prey when 4 lumbering idiots stumbled into his path, scaring off his rabbit. Letting out a snarl of rage, he attacked. Those that interrupted his hunt must be punished. Story end. Story start. So Blake said as she stood in Naruto's office, her team with her, and Ruby lying on a couch, still not having recovered. What was that? How can you make clones and an aura shield? What happened with Ruby? Naruto sat, saying nothing as he watched the 4 girls, who began to shift nervously. After staying silent for several long moments, he spoke. What I am about to tell you is classified. It does not leave this room. If it does, you will be marked as terrorists and hunted to the death. Are you sure you wish to know? This concerns my sister. Yang growled. And if it gets out, she'll be targeted for the same reason Summer was. You know what happened to her? Ruby asked. Kind of, Naruto replied. That is also classified. We spoke up. Ruby risked her life for mine. She did something I couldn't. I wanted to do what I can to repay her, but to do that, I need to know. I want to know as well. Blake said. Okay, what Ruby is, and why Summer was hunted. She has silver eyes. Silver eyes are a trait passed down by an ancient family of warrior. The Rose family is a branch of this. Quite simply, they have aura, and a separate power. This power, or energy, is the opposite to the energy of the Grimm. With proper training, a silver-eyed warrior can kill any Grimm, save the oldest and strongest, with but a look. However, there are those who view those with silver eyes as less than human, less than faunus, claiming they are of the offspring of man and Grimm. These organizations hunt silver-eyed warriors with extreme prejudice. That's why Summer was hunted. That's why, if this gets out, Ruby will be hunted, and why if any of you speak of this outside this room, before you are deemed fit enough to do so, you will be hunted down. The three girls stared at an equally stunned Ruby. So what happened to Mom? Ruby asked. Naruto closed his eyes, letting out a slow sigh. She is currently trapped in a space outside of this dimension, yet bound to it, frozen in time. Why how? Yang asked. Because of me. Naruto replied. Because I'm not from Remnant. What do you mean? Ruby asked. I'm from a different world. We didn't have Grimm, or Faunus. There, we had a power, an energy, called chakra. Like Monk, move things with your mind stuff? Yang asked abruptly. No. As in, we have to power to control the 5 elements without dust. As well as sub-elements. I, due to certain circumstances, became what's called a bijou or tailed beast, on in particular the 9-tailed fox. In a battle against a madman, I was pushed through a rift, where I floated between worlds for a long time. When Summer was being attacked, she used enough of her power, in one place, with enough concentration that it ripped a hole in the wall separating dimensions. I was pulled through, and she was going to take my place, so I did what I could and tried to pull her back. I was able to, essentially keep her anchored to Remnant, and am still looking for a way to pull her back. You expect us to believe that? Weiss asked. Naruto blinked and his eyes turned crimson. A pair of fox ears formed on his head, and 3 tails appeared behind him. His canines grew in length, the whisker marks on his face thickened, his fingers shifted, becoming clawed. I can assure you, Naruto said. Everything I tell you is true. They took a step back, eyes wide, and shaking from the raw power that flowed off him. Watching in amazement, fear and awe, as Naruto shifted back to his, more human form. What was that? Ruby asked. That was me losing some of my power. The more I release, the more my body changes with it. What happens when you let loose all of it? Blake asked timidly, tapping his desk, he said. I can become a giant 9-tailed fox, like a giant Grimm? Ruby asked slowly. Naruto burst into laughter. I guess you could say that. You've been called a god demon, now a Grimm. He chuckled. Though, I've also been called a living plushie before. Just how powerful are you? Weiss asked. I don't know. He replied honestly. I haven't used my full power since I became what I am. What's that supposed to mean? Weiss huffed. I mean, I was human, once in my life. I am no longer human. How? Weiss asked. That is a story for another time. As it stands, you 4 know more about me than almost everyone on Remnant. There are only 5 others, who know more than you at this time. He stood, walking towards the door. But for now, we need to speak with Ashbin. He is expecting us. Ashbin? Blake asked. Naruto gently picked up Ruby, much to her embarrassment, before he pushed the door open. He is one of the 5 I mentioned. Oh, Blake muttered. Line break. Ashbin's gaze was not the distracted, aloof gaze he normally held. It was not the friendly, encouraging gaze most students would associate with him. Instead, it was a powerful, calculating and commanding gaze. Team rwby soon realized that they were not in the presence of the cool, friendly professor most saw him as. They were sitting before the headmaster of Beacon, the man renowned as the most intelligent person on Remnant, one of the most dangerous and powerful people they had, and probably would ever meet. So Ashbin said slowly. You all know. He closed his eyes. Tell me, how much do you know about Naruto? Just that he's something called Bunji? Ruby asked. Bijou. Weiss hissed. We know he's not from here, and that he can change shape to giant fox, he can make clones, and can project his energy outside of his body. I see. And about Ruby's condition? We know that she has a separate power from her aura, that she can kill Grimm with it, and that there are people who would kill her for it. We know she is descendant from a powerful family who share the same gifts. Blake stated. Ashbin nodded. The announcements for the team's position in Naruto's class will be made soon. However, I will tell you, your team is in the top 3. You will be training with Naruto himself. He is the one who can best help Ruby, and may be able to help you with your glyphs. Weiss, he can help you, Blake, as he was a shinobi before he arrived here, and you as well, young. He is very proficient in hand-to-hand combat. Cool, Ruby said. Naruto sighed. I'm going to go and prepare a training ground. Ashbin nodded, and the girl's eyes widened as he vanished in a swirl of leaves. You are excited about training under Naruto? Ashbin asked. Hell yeah! Yang cried, pumping a fist, before blushing, realizing she'd done so in front of Ashbin. Yes. I am, Ruby said, a little more composed. I can't wait. Weiss rolled her eyes as her leader shook with excitement. I am pleased, she stated. It could be interesting, Blake said. Ashbin smiled, shaking his head. That is not the response I would give if I were to be training with him. What? Why? Ruby asked. You will all be training with the most powerful person remnant. Not only is he a master of stealth, he could wipe any of the 4 kingdoms off the map, and we could do nothing against him. Where he is from, things like him are called bija. Here, we call them gods. Do you understand what I am saying? Ashbin asked in a calm, steady voice. No, Ruby said timidly. Sighing, Ashbin stood. Naruto Uzumaki has more power than any single being I have ever met. He could turn any of the 4 kingdoms into but a smoldering crater in a matter of seconds. I am not telling you this to make you fear him, no, but so you can understand just who it is that will be training you. You will be training with a man who has fought and killed things with the power to destroy mountains without effort. He has shown me some of his previous battles. When he truly fights, he can change the very face of the planet. And he will push you. He will break you. He will shatter everything you think you know. Ashbin turned away, looking out the window. However, after he is finished, you will be stronger, more powerful than you ever thought possible. If he's so powerful, Ruby said. Why doesn't he destroy the Grim? If he solved all our problems, we would become reliant on him. But there would come a day when he would be gone. And what would we do then? Naruto refuses to get too involved, so the generations following can learn and grow, so they can grow and be strong, standing alone. I once asked him much the same question. After he told me his reasoning, he stated, he wouldn't only directly interfere if there was no other way. He stays out of the way, because he wants you, your generation, to grow, and become stronger than to the last. Oh, Ruby said. I see. Ashbin turned back to the 4 first years. You will train with Naruto 5 days a week. It will not be easy, nor will it be pleasant. Good luck. Line break. John sat on his bed, staring blankly at his hands. I don't belong here. When my team needed me, I ran. I'm nothing but a coward. His thoughts were stopped by the ringing of his scroll. Glancing down at it, he felt his heart sink. Nora burst through the door, cheery as ever. We were just placed in the top 3. She yelled. Ren looked up from where he sat. I see. What position are we in? Second. Team RWBY got first. ZMFY is in third. Pira stated as she stepped into the room. Oh, and Naruto requested that we meet him at his office. John visibly flinched at that, fearing what awaited him, for his failure. Line break. Ruby stood with her team, shifting nervously as Naruto sat cross-legged on the ground before them, mixing ingredients and blood together. What are you making? Ruby finally asked. Ink. He replied. It will be used in your training. How? Whis asked as the blonde stood. Because I'm going to place gravity seals on you. Gravity what now? Yang asked. It will make you weigh more, make it harder to move. Once you get used to it, I'll increase the weight again. You will have them active at all times, aside from missions and when it would better to not have them. So, who wants to go first? I will. Ruby said. Naruto nodded. I'll have to put them on you, hands, feet, and stomach. What? Ruby cried out, her face flushed red. You're in a hunter's school, Ms. Rose. There will be missions where you will likely have to do more than expose your stomach to someone. I've had to change clothes with many others before. It's something you'll have to get used to. Besides, I'm not asking you to strip. Okay, Ruby said, looking, nervously pulling buckles and straps. Your shoes and gloves too. He stated, pulling out a scroll, a paper scroll. Unrolling the scroll, he unsealed a small brush. Oh, okay. Ruby spoke, lifting her, now loosened corset. Naruto quickly, and carefully, applied the 5 seals. After looking them over, making sure they were correct, he nodded. Okay, who's next? I'll do it. Blake said in a bland tone as she removed her coat and shirt, followed by her gloves, shoes and leggings. Whis and Yang were surprised to see Naruto showing no signs of caring that their dark-haired teammate was standing before him wearing only shorts and a bra. Blake, however, from her time in the White Farm, was more used to the situation, and understood that the blonde, while he may be aware, was more focused on the task at hand. She suppressed a giggle as the brush trailed over her stomach. Once the brush left her skin, she loosed a sigh and went about putting her clothes back on. Whis huffed, stepping up to Naruto, having removed her gloves, shirt and shoes. Her face a fierce red in embarrassment. She was, however, surprised at how quickly Naruto finished seals, and found herself lost in wonder at the detail he had put into them. Yang stepped up with a wide grin. If I'm going to be stripping down, I want something to look at as well. Meaning? Naruto asked. Take your shirt off. Okay. He said before pulling his jacket off, followed by his shirt. Yang's grin fell, as the other 3 gasped in horror. Yang stared at the scars littering his torso, though, 4 stood out more than the rest. 2, roughly fist-sized scars sat on either side of his chest, and 1 on his gut. The 4th scar, however, was a long slash from his left shoulder to the opposing hip. What happened to you? She asked with a quivering voice. War, was his simple response. Shortly after, all 4 of the girls had the gravity seals on. Naruto then activated each, using chakra. I have increased your weight by 10%. I want each of you to run around these grounds, he said, motioning to the large area allotted to the team. Every morning until you can do 20. You will train in your styles for no less than 1 hour every day. He then motioned to a 300-meter track, with a 100-meter runway, 50-meter pool, a shifting rock wall 30 meters tall, followed by a steep, rocky slope, 90 meters long, then 20 meters of barbed wire to crawl under, a 10-meter tall rope climb, that lead to a rope bridge 20 meters long. At the end was a 20-meter stretch of simulated, broken walks to cross. You will run this course no less than twice a week until you can do in under a minute and a half. That's impossible, Weiss stated. Your sister can run this in just under 50 seconds. Naruto replied, her mouth clamped shut as a frown set in her face. For the record, Naruto said, she's the only one in the Atlas military I actually respect. But don't tell her that. Why? Weiss asked. I respect her, but I'm not fond of how blindly she follows Jimmy, he said. Besides, I'm pretty sure she hates my guts, from when I humiliated her several years ago. He stretched before pulling his shirt and jacket back on. I have to go meet some other students, so you are free today. Line break. John paced nervously outside Naruto's office. His team sitting against the wall. The sound of footsteps began echoing in the hall. Looking up from his thoughts, John spotted the blonde professor heading towards them. Sorry I'm late, he said. I was dealing with Team rwby. He pushed the door open, saying, come in, make yourselves comfortable. The 4 teens made their way into the room. Pira, Nora and Ren all took a seat, while John, being too nervous to sit, stood. Naruto walked behind his desk and sat in his large, leather chair. So, I can assume you have an idea why I called you here. John swallowed. Because of my actions during your test? He asked, shaking slightly. That is part of the reasons. The other reason, John, is that you have something to tell your team. What? Naruto raised an eyebrow. The thing you've kept hidden for the past month or so. I don't understand. John said slowly. Leaning forward, Naruto asked. How did you get into Beacon, John? The blonde teen's eyes widened. Why, you knew, Naruto snorted. Of course. Ashbin, Glenda, Porky, Barty, and myself. John swallowed. I faked my entrance exams. You what? Piraz asked, her eyes wide. Clearing his throat, Naruto spoke. John here faked his entrance exams. Well, that's not the whole story. He hacked into Vale's records, stole the information, forged a copy, and sent it in. Each a crime that can get someone up to 10 years in prison. Well, you, Naruto raised a hand, cutting off the stuttering blonde. But none that matters. What does matter, John, is that you did so well enough that it made it to Ashbin and myself. It was almost perfect. Ashbin chose to let you in, for 2 reasons. First, being that Ox have always had a talent for leading. Second, because you're computer savvy. Most hunters are not. Most can use computers, sure, but not many can manipulate them like you can. You, John, were let in, because Ashbin is a jealous man. He is a man who accepts, only the most talented. You did such a fine job that you caught his attention. Now, the problem here lies in that you have no form of training in real combat, and that you don't pay attention to your studies. Now that your team has been chosen to be one of the 3 teams to, basically, represent Beacon, you need to catch up fast. That will be my job. You and your team will have a training instructor. Who it is, I'm not privy to. However, you, John, will meet me at Training Ground 004 every day at 6 until 8:30. Any of your team may come, should they wish, however, they do not need to. Story end. Story start. Yang sighed as she stepped out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around her head, and wearing her pajamas. She saw her team, all having showered before her, sitting on their beds, blank looks on their faces. You saw them too, she stated. The scars. They were on his back too, Weiss said slowly. They went all the way through, Blake muttered. What kind of man can take that? What has he been through? Ruby asked slowly. I never really thought that he had any trouble, but he's got all those scars. How does he carry on? Yan watched as her younger sister seemed to curl up on herself, sobbing quietly. Ruby, the blonde muttered. She pulled herself up onto Ruby's bed, wrapping her arms around her. Not knowing what to say to comfort her, she simply held to the girl and rocked her gently. Blake watched them for a moment before turning away, her own thoughts going back to the days she shared with the White Fang. I grimaced as I pulled my blade from the chest of the robot. Though it was only metal and wires, I couldn't help but question, what if it had been flesh and blood? Could I still fulfill my duty? Could I still do what needed to be done? Could I still justify it? Adam's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I looked up at the red-haired bull Faunus. He, the one who saved me, the one who trained me. He was right. He was always right. But I couldn't help but fear, what if he was wrong? What if we were wrong? Blake shook her head at her thoughts, telling herself to leave it in the past, where it belonged. Wise sat on her bed, trying to reevaluate the blonde Uzumaki. She had learned a lot today. More than her father, more than her sister, probably. She closed her eyes, trying to accept that the teacher she had viewed as shrewd, careless and crass, had apparently fought in a war, that he could reshape the face of Remnant, that he could control the elements without dust. Everything about him was wrong. It broke everything she had ever believed, everything she had known. It was frightening to the Shin'ieris. She shivered idly, remembering the sheer power he had released. She had, At one point thought herself strong, powerful, even. Now, however, she couldn't help but feel small. Insignificant. Line break. Pyrrha panted as she dodged and rolled, doing her best to deflect and block the projectiles flying towards her from every direction. She glared as wood, metal and plastic objects circled and attacked her, being controlled by Glenda, who had mastered her telekinetic semblance to a degree few ever could. Come on, Pyrrha, the blonde teacher said. As a huntress, you may have to fight for hours on end. Skill means nothing if you haven't the stamina to keep it up. The redhead groaned as she threw herself to the side, evading another flying weapon. She had been doing so for little over 30 minutes. Most of her fights had only lasted 15 at most. She was, however, thankful that she wasn't training under Naruto. She and her team had heard from Team rwby about his ludicrous training plan. She did not envy the all-girl team, nor had she ever heard anyone so thankful to sit in a bath. The moans and gasps that she had heard from the girls had told story enough of just how sore they were. She almost pitied her team leader, but her rational side couldn't help but think it poetic justice. Not that she'd tell him, no, she wasn't that low. Meanwhile, Rin jogged around a flat track, to try and build his stamina. When it had been brought up, he had been ashamed to admit, his stamina was, probably less than John's. He didn't know how he felt about the blonde. After learning he had cheated his way in, his respect for him had taken a dramatic drop. He, however, would hold his judgment for a while longer. If Ashbin saw fit to keep him, he supposed he should at least give him a chance. Nora stood on a platform, swinging her hammer between two posts, after Glenda had told her she was too slow. While she didn't necessarily agree, she didn't want to argue. Watching the woman train Pyrrha had told her, Glenda was scary. John panted as he struggled to pull himself up. After just having finished 2 laps around the track, he was already exhausted. Watching his team training really drove the point into him. He was weak. Far weaker than he thought he was. A loud groan escaped his lips as he remembered, after classes, he had to train with Naruto. Line break. Alright, Naruto said, standing before Yang. I want you to attack me. Show me how you fight. You sure? Yang asked. Naruto deadpanned. I was hit by a woman who could crush mountains with her fist. Right, Yang muttered. Okay, here goes. She darted forward, pulling her fist back. She threw a punch, which he dodged, so she threw another, and another. Her teeth clenched as she attacked over and over. Each time, he dodged as if he knew what she was going to do. Letting out a frustrated cry, Yang's hair burst into flames, attacking with more power and speed. Her fury grew as he continued to dodge her strikes without effort. Continuing to dodge for several more minutes, Naruto finally caught her upper arm as she threw a punch. How did I dodge all your attacks? Naruto asked. I don't know, Yang growled, trying, and failing to overpower him. You telegraph your movements. You back your arm before a punch, outlining what you're going to do. You make yourself predictable, and you let your anger control you. Learn to let your anger fuel you, but not lead you. He shoved her back, reaching into a pocket. He unsealed the scroll and pulled it out, tossing it to her. Practice this every day. Unrolling the parchment, her eyes widened. This is taijutsu, Naruto said. Or as you would call them, martial arts. Okay, Yang said, slightly miffed that her brawl-like attacks wasn't good enough for him. Leaving Yang, the blonde male headed over to Weiss, who was struggling with push-ups. Ms. Schnee, he said, catching her attention. Ugh, yes, Professor? She asked as she stood, her face red from her exercise. I want you to attack me, so I can see what I can help you with, he stated. Weiss frowned, but complied. Grabbing her rapier from where she had set it, she readied her stance. Narrowing her eyes, she activated a glyph under her to launch her at the blonde man. He twisted the side, dodging her strike. She launched herself again. He dodged away, and she formed another glyph to fire ice shards at him, only for her eyes to widen as he shattered each. After the barrage ended, he stood still twirling a kunai. Glaring, Weiss focused on her semblance, forming 12 glyphs around him. She launched herself by him. Swinging her blade, which he blocked, she began shooting from glyph to glyph, each time going faster, and each time striking harder. Yet each strike he seamlessly blocked. She stopped, spinning to face him, drawing her rapier up, but froze as he lifted a hand. Okay, your form is good, but you're too stiff. You need to loosen up. With that style, it is better to flow like water, yet you are stiff and rigid, like ice, which will cause your technique to break. Now your glyphs, while making 1 or 2 may not be too much of a problem, any more seems to take time, concentration, time which your foe could use to kill you or one of your team. I want you to practice your glyphs for at least 30 minutes every day. Then for another 30 minutes, I want you to practice controlling your glyphs. Controlling? Weiss asked. What do you mean? Naruto lifted his kunai and opened his palm. The blade lifted, the point facing up, and began levitating while spinning slowly. I can move my power like you can your glyphs. You push something with them, and it moves, but what I want you to practice is to push, or lift things with different force. Like this knife, I must put the proper force into it, to make it stay afloat. Too little, and it will fall. Too much, and it will shoot away. What I would suggest is to get a ball, and use your glyphs to make it roll, to different targets, at different distances and directions. After you get good at that, Begin putting a spin on the ball itself to direct it in motion. This will help you be able to make minute changes in your glyphs, changes that could save lives. She nodded. Okay. Thank you. Walking to Blake next, who was running through her own katas. Seeing him approach, she stopped, standing at attention. I assume you want to test me as well? She asked. Naruto nodded. You assume correctly. She readied herself, before launching an attack, striking at swinging Gamble at him. After he dodged the first few attacks, she pulled Shroud to attack as well and soon began using her clones to try and confuse him, as well as launch herself around him. Seeing that it was doing no good, she leaped back, and changed Gamble into its chain scythe form, and launched it around him, pulling her ribbon this way and that, causing it to fire off, each time redirecting it at him. Naruto's hand suddenly lashed out and caught the ribbon, much to her surprise. Grabbing the hilt of Gamble, he tossed it back to her. Your technique is good, your use of your clones are good as well, you could use some work on overall speed and strength, as well as your stamina. It's easy to see you're used to more guerrilla tactics. However, there may come a time when you need to outlast your foe. Also, it would be good for you to have a thrown weapon of some kind. I can make several different shuriken and kunai in a few days. It is always best to have a backup of some kind. Also, I'll try to find a taijutsu to suit you. She nodded and said, Thank you. Finally, Naruto approached Ruby, who was spinning her scythe in ways that he was sure had to be breaking more than a few laws of nature. Hey, Professor! Ruby said happily when she saw him. What's up? I want you to attack me, Ruby, so I can try and help you. She chuckled nervously. Are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, a scythe is kinda dangerous. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto said. I'll be fine, don't worry about me. If you're sure, Ruby said, and dashed towards him, swinging the back side of her scythe at him, which he caught, completely stopping it. No. Naruto said. Come at me with the intent to kill. But I don't want to hurt you, Ruby said. But the man from the forest, you fought him with everything you had. That was different. My friends were in danger. She cried. Ruby. Naruto spoke. There will be times where you will have to fight, harm, and possibly kill people that you don't know are guilty or not. Many darker organizations use blackmail to force civilians and innocent to fight for them. While I applaud you for not wanting to harm someone you think may not be criminal, until you can put that behind you, you won't be fit to be a huntress. Her eyes widened. What? Why? She asked as tears began beating in her eyes. What do you think Crow does? When he encounters any of the White Fang? He does what any other hunter should do and take them down. A good quarter of the White Fang are only there because they cannot leave. If they do, they and their family disappear. Ruby's eyes widened, and knowing that I still have to harm, or kill them. Not because I want to, but to make the world a safer place, I have to. She lowered her eyes, trembling slightly. That's not fair, and Grim running rampant, slaughtering children before they reach 10 is? This world isn't fair, Ruby. That's why we're here, to try to make it a better place. But to do that, we will have to do some dark deeds. Naruto sighed. Think on it, try to understand just what you've signed up for. Line break. You did what? Why? Yang cried out. John looked away, his face red in embarrassment. He cheated his way in. Pira said, a small bit of irritation clear in her voice. Now he gets to train after all the classes with Naruto. My condolences. Wise said. It can't be that bad, can it? He asked. He made us run and train with weights. Even just today, he's pushed me farther than I've ever pushed myself. Yang said. Though, how did you even get in? Well, I used to play in mod games a lot. John said. I moved on from modifying them to making my own, began programming, and found I could do it very easily. I began looking through other programs, tearing them down to see what made them tick, and well, I got good at finding ways to get through them without being noticed. I started hacking into gaming companies, looking at, and sometimes even playing, or modifying the games they were producing. When I decided I wanted to be a hunter, I just slipped through Vale's security walls, and got the transcripts after that. It was pretty simple to forge them. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his head. I never thought it would lead to this much trouble though. Trouble? Yang asked. Pira sighed. If it was revealed what John did, he could be in for some serious prison time. Though I don't think Ashbin would let that happen, from what Naruto has said. Oh, Yang muttered. Ouch, Weiss huffed. Well, he did break the law. Hey! John cried indignantly. I already have to suffer from both Naruto and Glenda. Don't make it worse. John pouted as the two teams laughed at his expense. Line break. How's your group doing? Glenda asked. Oh, pretty well, I suppose. Naruto said. Ms. Rose, though I don't think she fully understood what it means to be a huntress, he frowned. I did my best to try and explain to her that, to save people, sometimes she's going to need to be a monster. He ran a hand through his hair, glancing around. She has a good heart, but a good heart won't protect the people. Glenda nodded with a frown. Yes, most of these children do not understand what they're training to become. I can only pray when they discover it, they'll understand and continue the path they chose. Naruto nodded slowly. Yeah, it is always a hard pill to swallow. The blonde woman leaned over the railing, gazing at the emerald forest. I have faith they will understand after all, you are teaching them. Shaking his head, Naruto decided not to reply, even if he felt he would have little to no hand in the children's determination to continue their way. Line break. John panted as he struggled to push himself onwards, gritting his teeth as he was forced to run along a rough path, with 15 pounds strapped to each limb, not to mention the lightning bolt that would strike him, if, in his teacher's words, he was slacking off. Speaking of which, come on! Move it! John was barely able to leap away as a bright blue bolt slammed into the ground where he had been not a moment before. Are you trying to kill me? He cried out. I know well how much the human body can take. Naruto snapped. If I were trying to kill you, Mr. Ark, you'd be dead an hour ago. Now move! Another bolt of lightning flew from his fingers. John cried out as this one did catch him, throwing him several feet farther. You've still got 45 minutes to go, boy. The blonde Casanova began to wish he had taken his sister's advice, and actually trained before trying to get into Beacon. Line break. John? Ruby and Pyrrha gasped simultaneously. Said blonde stumbled into the room, his armor blackened and scorched, painting his face while his hair stood on end, small sparks of blue jumping from strand to strand. What happened to you? Ruby stuttered out. He looked at her with tired eyes before he croaked out. Naruto. He stumbled to his bed, falling face first into it, he passed out. Both girls stared for a few moments, before coming out of their shock, and dashing to his bed to check on him. Good. He's only unconscious, Pyrrha sighed after a few moments. Nothing too major, but did he really have to push him so hard? Naruto hates cheaters. He's constantly told us that we need to work for what we get. Ruby frowned. I'm still surprised that he would try to fake his way into Beacon. Ruby frowned, feeling that she should tell the team about herself, yet the threat from Naruto still rung clear in her ears. She sighed softly, resolving to speak with him later. Line break. Naruto? Glenda asked, stepping out on the balcony. The blonde turned back to the woman, a sad smile on his face. Hey, Glenda, he said softly, before turning back to the emerald forest. What are you doing out here? She asked, shivering slightly as the colder winds blew. Thinking, he replied. I think I want to go into Vale this weekend, see the orphans again. I've been checking on them when I can. I'm sure the older ones would be happy to see you again. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I didn't know you went down there. Well, a wise man once told me that if I make time to make another's day brighter, I'll find my own growing brighter. He was right. I didn't know Ojban was a sappy sod. Naruto laughed. It wasn't Ojban, Naruto. She muttered. It was you. Really? Huh. Naruto chuckled. I probably heard it from someone else. Naruto, honestly, how are you feeling? I'm fine, why? He asked, masking his nervousness. You've done a complete 180 since we talked. I'm worried about you. A dry chuckle was his response. Was I really that easy to see through? No, but I've dealt with my fair share of loss. And I know, you don't just stop hurting. She frowned. And I also know, you are a master at hiding your pain. I want to go see them, Glenda. But I'm scared. I've been running from this. For so long I've been running from them. I'm scared, Glenda. How will I face them? With honesty. She replied. I am not sure how they will act, or react, but you can only do the best you can. Speak with them truthfully. I would appreciate it, if I were them. Naruto smiled softly, gazing out into the emerald forest. What would I do if you weren't here? Burn the school down. She replied. A short laugh burst from his throat. Yeah, I probably would. Line break. Mr. Uzumaki? Ruby asked timidly, poking her head through the door. Are you in here? Hearing voices in the back, Ruby carefully made her way through the office, peeking out the door at the back of the office. She was surprised to find both Naruto and Glenda standing out on a small balcony, speaking in tones too low for her to hear. She was about to announce her presence when Naruto spoke up. I won't bite, Ms. Rose. You need something? Why, yes, she said, stepping out. I wanted to ask you something, but if I'm interrupting anything I can come back later. No, Naruto said. Nothing too serious. Anyway, your question? Well, Team JNPR, told us about John and I. You feel like you're being untrustworthy, not telling them about yourself? Naruto asked, her face flushed, as she nodded. Ruby. As it stands, the only reason you and your team know right now is that I messed up. It would have been more preferable to be able to tell you next year, when we would be sure that you were well enough trained to defend yourself, and had seen enough of the world to understand it. You may tell them, in the future, but not yet. As it is, if someone was to question John, he could break under the pressure. That would put you, your team, and your family at risk. Until they are fit enough, it would be best to stay silent on the matter. It is not being untrustworthy. Instead, you are protecting them, and your loved ones, by not telling them. The less they know, the safer they are. As a child, I had no idea that I was the son of our village's most loved hero, because, if word had gotten out, assassins from the other villages would have been after me, and most likely, everyone close to me. Of course, I found out anyway, but I still kept it a secret. Naruto sighed. It's hard, I know, but this is one of the things we hunters must do to ensure people are safe. Which reminds me of your problem earlier in training. Ruby looked away, not really wanting to talk about that portion. Ruby, tell me, which is the greater sin? Killing a man? Or letting the man go, to kill many more? He rested a hand on her shoulder. Try to get some sleep, Ruby, it's getting late. Story end. Story start. Have you made your choice, Ms. Rose? Naruto asked. Ruby glared at the blonde-haired man before her. Everything she believed about hunters had been thrown into question because of him. Everything she had been taught, ever told, and heard in stories, he had crushed. And the more she tried to deny it, to refuse it, the more it made sense. Hunters weren't simply heroes that went around killing Grimm and saving people like she had once thought. They were people, with fears, cares, hopes and dreams. They were people, who chose to do, sometimes terrible things, so that someone else didn't have to, so that those who didn't, could sleep peacefully, safe from the horrors of the world. Her body trembled as she gripped her scythe. It was not fear that made her shake, instead it was her conviction that she held. Letting out a cry of determination, she shot towards him. Firing off a shot, she used the recoil of her weapon to send her faster, nearly 6 feet away from him. She planted her left foot in the ground, forcing her body to spin as she fired another round, sending her blade even faster. She didn't want to hurt her teacher, but she knew she had to come at him as if he were a Grimm, as if he were a threat. She had to kill. With that in mind, she came at the blonde in full force. She was mildly surprised when he effortlessly dodged her strike. Spinning with the momentum, she shifted her grip and angled her scythe to come at him from a different angle. Again and again, she attacked, each strike getting closer to her mark, each swing of her deadly blade getting faster. Her eyes widened as she heard the sound of metal striking metal. Following her now unmoving scythe with her eyes, she saw the blade in his hand, his fingers curled around to the edge, keeping the razor edge from touching his skin. Very good, Ruby. Naruto praised. Not many people can make my move at those speeds. With the way you use your scythe, and your semblance, I pity your enemies. Ruby blushed at the praise before she scrunched her eyes. But I never saw you move to catch it. She puffed her cheeks out slightly. He laughed, standing up straight. Remember, Ruby, I am not human, nor am I faunus. My physical limits are far different from your own. 'Cause you're a god? Ruby asked. His eye twitched lightly. I am not a god. Rubbing the back of his head, he stated. Ashbin and a few others feel my power is within the realm of gods. But even if it is, which I doubt, I am a bijou, not a god. Is there really that much of a difference? Blake asked. I mean, you have an unimaginable amount of power. You apparently reform after you are killed, so you can't really die. I would doubt your age. That would make you a god in my books. Naruto sighed. Where I am from, there were humans with the amount of power as a bijou. There were ways to trap bijou. Most of the time, villages would seal them inside infants, so the child could be raised as a weapon of mass destruction. We were called Jinchuriki. We? Weiss asked before her eyes widened. You. He rubbed his head before sighing. The Uzumaki clan had always had stronger bodies than any others. We were the only ones who could hold the Kitsune no Kyubi, the nine-tailed fox, which was the strongest of the tailed beasts. If he had been sealed within anyone but an Uzumaki, the child would have died within an hour. My mother was the fox's host before me. When I was born, it weakened the seal, allowing someone to free the fox, which killed her. My father, in turn, sealed it in me, at the cost of his life, and while I can understand, he did what he had to, it was still a terrible thing to do. To most of the village leaders, I was a weapon in times of war, and a monster in times of peace. Then in the Fourth Shinobi War, I ended up arriving here. He gave a dry chuckle. I bet that really pissed off the group trying to get the fox. Why were they trying to get it? Weiss asked. Because each of the tailed beasts was a fragment of the 10-tailed god. They wanted to revive it, and use it as a weapon to subjugate the nations. Fools, the lot of them. Shaking his head, Naruto stated. I came from a clan who were naturally stronger, and I still couldn't control the full power of the Kyubi. Anyway, enough about my past. We have work to do. If you girls keep distracting me and making me take long spills about my past, Team JNPR will take the lead over you, and as my team, I can't allow that. Why not? Blake asked. 'Cause my pride is on the line here, damn it. He exclaimed childishly. If you're not the best, that will mean someone else is better than me. I'm a shinobi. I have a reputation to uphold. You mean the reputation that you've got a few screws loose? Yang asked with a deadpan. Naruto crouched in a corner drawing circles. So mean, he muttered. Line break. Glenda sighed in exasperation. Something wrong? Ajban asked. I just had the feeling Naruto is doing something incredibly childish. Was his reply. Line break. Okay. So Ruby, how are you at hand-to-hand combat, eh? She asked, blinking. I don't know any? Seriously? He muttered before shaking his head. You need to learn at least some. There may come a time when your weapon isn't handy. But why would that happen? Ruby asked. Naruto's eye twitched. Ruby, you do know that you may not always be the fastest and that there are those stronger out there, right? She blushed but nodded. Now, for any normal person, it would probably be pretty smooth sailing. But you, that's the four of you, seem to have my kind of luck. That means, no matter what, something will happen. He crossed his arms. Seriously, you fought a giant Nevermore before you were even a part of Beacon. Besides, it's better to know how to fight with your hands, even if you never need to. just in case you do. I guess she muttered with a pout. Naruto nodded, putting his fingers in a cross formation, creating 4 clones. Each of you will work with a clone. You will spar with your clone, who will help you work out any kinks your style. But we've already sparred with you, Ruby said. Yes, but that was just to get an idea of how you fought, and what I could teach you outside of your own fighting style, a fallback in case you need it. He replied. This is to perfect and polish your fighting style. Oh, okay, Ruby said in a giddy voice. Great. Now get to it. He snapped with a fox-like grin. Line break. Glenda glanced over at Naruto as he sat, reading through old scrolls and texts, a frown marring his face. She sighed as she watched him study through hundreds of old scripts. He had joined his army of clones in their search through theory, looking for a way to free the time-frozen Rose. Hearing a sigh, Glenda was pulled from her thoughts as one of the many Narutos stood, stretching. He walked over to a coffee machine, pouring himself a cup. Are you the real one? Glenda asked a bit nervously since she couldn't tell them apart. He shook his head. No. Boss is in the back, the clone said, motioning towards the other end of the hidden room, past the army, and another army. He chuckled seeing her put out expressions. Don't feel bad about it. We clones can only tell each other apart because the link, if you want to call it that we share with the boss and each other. Especially since we're the only ones here that can actually use chakra. It makes it that much easier to feel each other out, finding our signature chakra. To us, boss's chakra is brighter than that of any others, because he is, essentially, the father of us all. The clone slowly drank down the full cup of coffee, before letting out a soft sigh. That was good. Back to work, I suppose? Before you go, Glenda said curiously. What is the difference between you and Naruto? The clone rubbed the back of its head. Well, when we're created, we have, basically a command, written in us. We're compelled to complete that command. Though some of us are duds, and will go off in their own. That is when too much of boss's own personality gets put into the clone, overriding its command. They can do anything from helping an old lady with her groceries, to pranking everyone with 10 square miles. He shrugged. Just depends on what part of his personality is stronger in that clone. That didn't really answer my question, Glenda muttered. The clone hummed, leaning back. Well, I guess the main difference is that we pop when we are hit with enough force, and boss doesn't. I see, thank you. The clone nodded before returning to his work. Glenda sat silently observing them. A small blush came over her face as she thought about the possibilities with all the clones. Shaking her head of her less than pure thoughts, she focused on grading her class's papers, or at least tried to. Eventually, giving up, she stood, and headed to the exit of the room, and up the elevator, past the maiden's chamber, until she got to her own floor. Quickly heading to her room to take care of herself, she couldn't help the chuckle that left her lips at the thoughts now swimming freely through her head. Line break. Naruto stood as he finished sorting through the memories of 200 or so clones, including the ones who had been training the all-girl team of Beacon. Idly creating another couple hundred clones, he flashed to the door, pushing the heavy stone door out of the way, before returning it to where it had been. He chuckled lightly. Only someone with his raw strength, or having an ability close to Glenda's own, could actually open the door. He couldn't wait until Ironwood found out. Naruto let out another sigh, his good mood crushed at the thought of the self-righteous man. Sure, he could tell the man wanted to help the people of Remnant, but he was willing to do so at any cost, often using methods that caused more damage than needed. That, and he was far too prideful, and easily manipulated. A few carefully placed words and the man could be anyone's lapdog. Naruto grunted, clearing his head of his thoughts. Deciding to eat, he made his way through the once confusing maze of halls. Soon finding himself in the cafeteria, he gathered a tray of food and sat away from the students. He knew how awkward it could be, sitting with teachers. It killed whatever mood there was before the authority figure arrived. His musings were, however, interrupted, as several trays were placed near him. Glancing up, he saw that the trays belonged to the top second-year team. Raising an eyebrow at the arrivals, their leader spoke up. Hey, you're a cool teacher, even if you're old. His eyebrow twitched. You have no idea how much I want to strangle you right now. A smirk pulled onto her lips. Kinky, I like it, Naruto sputtered. Damn it. Don't say things like that. The rabbit faunus of the team giggled before asking. Are you a faunus? I mean, your whisker marks? Naruto tilted his head considering his response. Kind of, he replied. I was born to human parents, but due to circumstances, I am more animal than a normal human. How does that work? The largest member of the team asked in a deep, rumbling voice. Well, it's really hard to explain, Naruto replied. Did your mother have an affair with a faunus? Koko asked. No. Naruto replied instantly. The only thing I got from her was personality, a healthy appreciation for pranks and ramen. He chuckled. I look exactly like my father, save for the whisker marks. Besides, I've had blood tests run, and he is, in fact, my father. Anyhow, while I am not a faunus, I'm not, entirely, human either. That is odd, Koko stated. Did you ever want it reversed? At a time, yes. People were afraid of me as a child, they hated me, so of course, I wished I was normal. But one night, I met someone who was even less normal than me, and very proud of what he was, too proud probably. Anyway, after meeting him, I wore my whiskers with pride. They're a part of me, of who I am. I don't give a damn what people think about them, I wouldn't trade them. That's very brave, Velvet muttered. Who was this person, if you don't mind me asking? He was my mentor, my father figure, and my closest friend. I'm sorry, Velvet said. I didn't know. It's fine. Naruto replied, rubbing the back of his head. It's been years since it happened. Still, I'm sorry to have brought it up. Don't worry about it. Honestly. The blonde said, a little more forcefully. Oh, okay. The chocolate-haired bunny girl replied nervously. Naruto began to eat slowly, as he kept himself amused by the idle conversation of the second-year team. Line break. All right, class. Naruto roared, his voice echoing loudly through the room. The fourth years currently sitting before him perked up. Today will be a rather boring day compared to our last few weeks, but nonetheless, it is important. On your desks, you will find a test I have written out for you all. Use your books to find the answers. You will need to figure out which herbs and medicines to make for each of the listed scenarios. You have until the end of class to complete it. Please take your time. The students obediently began their work, while the blonde professor sat at his desk flipping through papers, checking over each answer, and marking the appropriate score at the top right-hand corner of the page. As he worked through the stack of papers, double-checking each one before he set it aside, his mind began slipping back to a time when he would have guessed he would be teaching in future. Leaping away from the blade that embedded itself into the earth not far from where he had stood, not a moment later the area was engulfed in a large explosion. So, does Jiraiya know you're here? The woman who had thrown the blade asked. Naruto chuckled as he landed, throwing his own blades in return. No, he doesn't, he replied as the erotically dressed purple-haired woman dodged the blades. I'm hardly ever actually with him. I just leave a reinforced clone to suffer. Harsh. So why are you here with little old me? She asked, dropping from the massive branch she had been standing on. Rolling his eyes, Naruto replied. Why not? You're fun to train with, besides I do owe you quite a bit, don't I? She seemed to go rigid for a moment. I already told you, you owe me nothing, Naruto snorted, pointing a kunai at her. You saved my ass. Of course, he did have the fox's help at the time, but he wasn't going to tell her, or anyone for that matter, but she had still gone out of her way to help, and even train him. The act in itself had given him a huge amount of respect for her. That is something I will never thank you enough for. Hell, you even tried to train me. She crossed her arms, looking away. Think nothing of it. I know what it's like to be an outcast. Naruto threw the blade he held in his hand. She blocked it, sending him a glare, which only hardened when she saw his mischievous smile. That was cheating. He raised an eyebrow and she huffed. Bastard, Naruto chuckled, pulling out another blade, encouraged by seeing the smirk she was trying to hide. Shall we? He asked, dropping into a lower stance. Why not? It seems like a good time to remind you why I'm undefeated. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts as he felt one of his students stand. Glancing up at the young man, he raised an eyebrow. Yes, Mr. Karth? Sorry, sir, I had thought I saw something out the window. Like what? Naruto asked, pressing a button under his table. It looked to be a grim of some sort. Though I cannot be sure. What did it look like? I'm not sure. I stood to get a better look, but it was gone by the time I stood. What I did see, however, it could have been an Ursa Minor. I doubt anything older would have ventured this far. Naruto nodded, let off the button. I am sure if it is anything Ashbin will have noticed, he will no doubt send an off-teacher to investigate. The student nodded, before taking his seat and returned to his work. Naruto had to admit he was pleased with the fourth years. From what he had seen already, for the most part, they were very alert, careful, and dedicated. Ahead above the other academies, and while he could clearly see that, he couldn't help but want more. He wanted his students to show the fruit of his training. He wanted them to be seen, and make the other schools see just how far they had to go to catch up. He wanted them to see the peak of the huntsman, the height that they could climb to. He idly chuckled to himself. Maybe I'm becoming as jealous as Ashbin. Line break. Ashbin sat in his office, silently thanking the most powerful being he had ever met, for suggesting to make a silent contact system, in case something was amiss. It could be reported without causing too much of a disturbance in class. The speakers went silent after the student finished what explanation he could. Ashbin pressed one of the many icons on his scroll. Ah. Ashbin. How are you? I am doing well, Peter, Ashbin replied, with a smile. As much as I would like to chat, there was something spotted on campus. The third years are out of class at the moment. Please round up a few teams to investigate. Right away, sir. The stout man replied, before ending the call. Not long after the call ended, another call came through to him. Frowning at the contact he didn't know, Ashbin thought about simply letting it ring when it stopped and answered itself. Hey Ozzy. A vaguely familiar voice spoke. Goldilocks called about a job offering. Ah, that's who it is, the silver-haired man thought idly. Yes, we could use you. If you're interested. Story end. Story start. Naruto stood panting, blood dripping from his fingers, and leaking from his nose and mouth. Standing around him were the shocked faces of several, from what he could tell, assassins. His eyes narrowed as one of the 6 people stepped forward. The man who stepped forward spoke something that he couldn't understand. The blonde glared, wondering how he would speak to the people. However, they answered his question first. 3 attacked as 1. Reacting on instinct, he dodged, Before noticing how slow they were going, the other three attacked. Dodging a large blade, the blonde threw a punch. His eyes widened when his fist tore through the man's chest as a strange shield seemed to shatter around the man. Clenching his teeth, Naruto's glare intensified. While he could and had killed, it wasn't something he liked doing. Looking at the 5 remaining, he could see their determination. They would not stop until they were dead. Sighing, he accepted it, buying his feelings. Like it or not, these people had been trying to kill the woman who inadvertently saved him, and now were set on killing him as well. Naruto dashed, vanishing to the normal eye. Using his wind chakra, he formed a blade around his hand, using it to cut down 4 of the 5. The first by cutting through his neck, sending his head flying, the second by spearing through his chest, the third by cutting from her shoulder to hip, and the fourth by slicing his head in half. He stopped before the 5th, a woman, who clenched her hands around her sword to stop her shaking before she let loose a cry and attacked. He dodged her blade, and gripped her shoulders, glaring into her eyes, idly wishing he had a Sharingan. He cast a seerless genjutsu. The woman's eyes dilated as he forced her mind to bend to his own, doing his best to gather as much information as he could, before her mind gave way, frying from his overly potent chakra. Naruto sighed as he dropped the corpse, looking around. He could see the woman who had saved him had already killed quite a few. Nearly 100 dead lay around him. Shaking his head, he made 300 clones, 20 to bury the dead, and 280 to explore and learn as much as they could. Naruto woke with a start. He could still remember her, the look on her face, large shining silver eyes set in a cute, almost childish face. The weariness and regret that lay etched into her eyes clashed with her otherwise cute demeanor. Shaking his head, Naruto pulled his blanket from his body. He slipped from his bed and ran through his morning routine. After he was finished and dressed, he headed to the elevator, going down to the lowest level, past the maiden vault, down to his personal study. Stepping inside, he was mildly surprised to find Glenda sitting on a desk, overlooking his clones. While it wasn't uncommon for her to be down, she rarely was this early. The blonde idly popped 100 clones while creating 100 more. His head was assaulted by the memories and knowledge of his clones. Glancing up at him, Glenda raised an eyebrow. "How are you this morning?" "I'm okay," Naruto replied, remembering the last time he had tried to lie about how he felt. "I see," she said with a slight frown. "You know you don't have to push yourself. It is your first year. The stress can be daunting." Chuckling, Naruto sat on the deer beside her. "It's not that," he sighed. "I just wish I had the answers for everything. I wish I didn't need the answers." Glenda nodded, taking his hand gently. "Don't worry," she said softly, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. "You have people you can rely on. I don't know how much I can help, but I'll do everything I can." "Thank you," the blonde shinobi said, before laughing softly. "I must look so cheesy. Sorry for always dumping this on you." Glenda smiled, giving his hand another squeeze. "It's fine. I'm glad to help. I'm glad you trust me enough for this." She looked up at him, taking in his form. Though the lighting was dim, his features still stood out. As she looked on him, as if unknowingly, she reached up, gently stroking his whisker marks. It always surprised her the way he reacted. Lightly leaning into her touch as a deep rumble emitted from his chest, and his eyes drooped closed. "I really shouldn't be doing this," she scolded herself. "But he's just so cute." Slowly leaning into her more, the blonde was soon laying on her lap as she stroked his cheek. Line break. Naruto stood before the first years, his arms crossed. "Okay. Today we're doing something a little different. You will not be working with your teams, instead, you will be working solo." What will we be doing?" one of his students asked. "You will be making soups. You should by now have the more basic foods you can make from your books. This is a test to see who is actually ready for any real activities outside of the school. Know that this will affect your grades. If you are not ready, you will not be allowed to go on any missions until you are deemed to be. If you fail badly enough, it could lower your grades to the point where you will be withheld into next year, and not pass on to the second-year classes." His eyes swept through the students, each looked nervous, scared even. "Good," he thought as he remembered his talk with Ashbin and Glenda earlier that day. "Are you sure it's a good idea?" Glenda asked as she looked between Ashbin and Naruto. "I am curious as to what you hope to accomplish by this," Ashbin stated. "The students will begin their first missions by the end of the year," Naruto said, locking eyes with the elderly man. "By telling them that this test will affect them in a major way, and possibly make them fail this year, it will put pressure on them. Many more will fail to be sure, but the next time something like this comes up, they will be a little bit more resistant to the pressure. By giving them more tests like this, we can be sure which ones are truly able to handle any kind of pressure, as well as introducing them to the pressure of failure. I do believe this may also help the John problem." Ashbin closed his eyes, humming in thought. "I see. Very well. You have my permission, thank you." Naruto making slight bow. "Now," Naruto said, "I will be monitoring each of you. As this is a solo exercise, you will fail should you get help from anyone, including your team." "That's not fair," John cried out in panic. Coughing into his hand, Naruto said, "Life sometimes isn't fair, Mr. Ark. If you're lost, stranded by yourself, which can happen on any mission, you won't have your team to rely on. That is why we study in preparation for such things. Alright, now, for your soup, it can be made out of anything you want, but it must have 3 different kinds of herbs, as well as being nutritious enough to sustain you for a day. Now go! Line break. Naruto sat meditating as his clones watched his students. He carefully pushed his chakra through his body, and out around himself. Extending his senses out, he could feel each of the students in the forest. He could feel students and teachers in the school, the people of Vale and surrounding villages. The small tingling sensation of feeling the life all around him, each person like a small beacon, the hunters a more powerful beacon. He smirked, knowing Ironwood would do almost anything to have a power like that. The militaristic man knew of the blonde's sensing abilities, but he didn't know how far they extended. He never grasped the sheer magnitude of his power. Naruto was no fool. He knew well his power was far above what humans could ever hope to achieve. That had been made even more abundantly clear to him when he discovered he could sense the people in Atlas from Vale. He shook his head clear of his thoughts, bringing himself into meditation again. He carefully began manipulating his chakra, making it take different natures as it flowed around and through him. Flames burst into life, dancing around the blonde, before fading, only to be replaced by lightning, which then faded to white wisps of wind. The vanished stones were picked up off the ground. Finally the stones fell as water formed in the air around him. Feeling a familiar presence land behind him, he let the water, falling from its elegant dance, it splashed to the ground. Watching you manipulate the elements was always beautiful, Glenda said with a soft voice. Chuckling, Naruto replied. Your semblance is far more stunning than anything I can do, she snorted, turning her head away. I strongly disagree. Seriously, it is amazing understandably, since it's made from your soul. What? She asked, spinning towards him. I was only speaking the truth, Naruto stated, confused by her reaction. Watching her fidget for a few moments, Naruto asked. So what did you need? Alright, she said, still flustered. I came to see how the students were doing. So far so good, as far as I know. I have a clone watching each. I see, that's good, Glenda said, more composed. How is your team's training going? It's good enough, I suppose, Naruto stated. Later I'm going to have Blake try out some thrown weapons. I've been having clones spar with the girls as well. They are picking up quickly, but I'm worried that they're not learning fast enough. The world isn't going to wait for them, then we'll protect them until they're ready, Glenda stated with confidence. Yeah. Naruto leaned back, looking up at the buxom blonde woman. He gave a cheesy grin. I'll do everything I can. Line break. Team JNPR stood before Naruto, whose arms were crossed. Pira, he said carefully. Why did you help John when I explained the rules? He couldn't do it on his own, she replied, then covered her mouth, not meaning to say not like she had. I know, Naruto stated. That was one of the main reasons I gave out this assignment. Someday, you could be alone, without anyone to help. I wanted to drive the importance of my classes. While I don't expect John to be the best or the greatest, I do expect him to be able to survive. If he can't, he will not pass. Naruto's eyes hardened as he glared at his fellow blonde. If you don't start paying attention in classes, John, you will never be a hunter. The first year flinched at Naruto's words. I've said it before, and I'll say it as many times as it takes to get through. My job is to prepare you, to make sure you don't get yourself killed in the field, and until you show that you are ready, you won't get your license. The boy nodded. I understand. Do you? Naruto asked. Then why don't you act like it? I just want to be a hero, John said quickly. I want to be like my father and his father. And do you think they achieved what they have on their own? The arcs have had a great many heroes to be sure, but I can promise you that they didn't do it on their own. They had help, teachers, and partners. They became great like anyone else, through time and effort. You have the talent to be something great, but every talent is useless if you don't exercise it. Like any muscle, it will fail if you don't train it. The blonde sighed but nodded. Yeah, I get it. I hope so. But that aside, I'm afraid I have to fail you both. Pira lowered her head. Professor, wasn't the test a bit harsh? Sometimes harder trials are better. You'll remember them. Line break. We're here, Yam called as Ruby looked around the forge. I see that, Naruto stated with amusement. The 4 girls yelped before spinning around to see the blonde teacher standing with a smirk plastered on his face. That was mean, Ruby cried. Naruto laughed softly, before making his way into his forge, lifting a box from a low shelf. Shall we head to the training grounds now? Ruby nodded excitedly. Let's go. Alright, these are the shuriken and kunai I've made you, Naruto told Blake once they entered the training grounds. He set the box on a bench and pulled it open. Inside were 12 shurikens, 4 sets of 3. The first, a standard 4-pointed star, the second 3-pointed, the third with 5 points, and the fourth looking more like a saw blade. Then there were 9 kunai, 3 sets of 3. The first made to be like the standard's kunai from his homeland, the second with a single edge, and the third made like Minato's Hiraishin kunai. Lastly, there was a set of 6 sedans. The dark-haired girl carefully lifted the tri-pointed knives. How would you throw these? She asked. Grinning, Naruto made 3 clones before he began explaining to the girl how to hold the weapons, and how to throw them. Meanwhile, the clones began training with the other 3 girls. Alright, strike here. the clone with Yang said, tracing a circle onto one of the training dummies. A good strike right under the sternum will bring down most of your foes. She nodded, taking the stance that he'd been drilling into her, with her left foot forward, and out, with her right foot to the side, just enough to ground her and keep her balance. With her knees slightly bent, she pulled her fists up, then twisted and threw her right arm forward. The dummy lurched back, the steel bracing inside it snapping from the force of her strike. The clone nodded. That was a very good hit. Now we need you to make that more natural, but for now, we'll be going over other places to hit. She nodded happily. The clone with Y stood, slowly extending his arm. With her face scrunched in concentration, she grabbed his wrist and twisted around him to push on his shoulder, pushing him to the ground. Good. The clone said, standing. Again. How many times must we do this? She asked as she grabbed his wrist again. Until you get it down. He stated as he was pushed to the ground. Should you ever be without your weapon, you'll need some form of self-defense, and you have no more reliable weapon than your own body. She sighed as he stood again. Ruby panted as kicked out at the clone with her. Her face was hard with determination, having chosen a form of kickboxing to train in, since she knew her legs were already strong, considering how much she ran. The clone met each of her kicks with his own. She wanted to wince or cry out, but she refused. Forcing herself through the small pains of training, she was determined to get stronger. You're doing good, the clone stated. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it is important. She nodded. I know. The clone smiled, pleased that she was dedicated to her training. With Blake, Naruto stood, watching as she threw the weapons he had crafted a large target board. She hummed as she threw the different blades, trying to see which felt better to her. After throwing each several times, she chose the sedans and the three-pointed shurikens, saying, These feel the most natural to me. Naruto gave a nod. Good, I can have more by the end of the week. Thank you, she said with a small bow. Chuckling, Naruto waved her off. Don't worry about it. Story end. Story start. Good morning, Foxy. Naruto looked up at the dark-haired woman, a true goddess in his eyes. Morning, Gale, he spoke softly. His eyes focused on her, as she stood smiling down at him. You're so beautiful, he murmured, cupping her cheek. Her cheeks flushed lightly. Flattery will get you now. She was cut off as he kissed her. Naruto's eyes opened, only to find himself, not with Gale, but standing before one of the oldest and most powerful beings he had ever met. Kurama, he whispered as he watched the fox's eyes become determined, fierce. Do it! Now! The fox roared. Naruto's eyes widened as he understood what was happening. No, he whispered. Not again. He struggled to rush forward, to stop the doors from swinging open, but his body wouldn't move, it couldn't. He was frozen as he watched as the fox flooded its host with its own chakra, blending his own potent chakra to that of the human cage he was locked in. At the time, Naruto didn't understand. But now he did. A being made purely of chakra, giving all of it to another, making it belong to another. He felt tears streaming down his face as he watched Kurama's body being pulled apart. Every second more and more of the fox vanished. Every second, he became less and less. To be able to die for someone I love is a great pleasure. Naruto shook as his heart ached, watching the last of Kurama fade away. His teacher, his friend, his brother, his father, he screamed. Jumping up from his bed, Naruto panted, his heart racing, and familiar loneliness settled onto him. He gritted his teeth as tears began to fill his eyes. Pulling his knees to his chest, Naruto sat against his wall. His heart ached as he remembered his oldest friends. He hid his face from the world, wishing he could have had more time with them. He felt many things, the pain of loneliness, the hope that they were happy, the joy of having been able to spend time with them, and a hatred for those who took them from him. Slowly, his tears dried as he thought of the friends he had. He closed his eyes as he breathed deeply, thanking whatever God was out there for not making him live in utter loneliness. His new friends would never replace his old, he knew that, but he loved them the same. Naruto sighed, feeling heavy after his emotional episode. He allowed himself to fall sideways, laying out on the floor in the cool room. He didn't need a blanket, after all, his body produced enough heat as it was. Line break. Glenda walked down the hall at a brisk pace, a young red-haired woman beside her. The woman, dressed in a loose brown shirt and baggy brown pants. Her hair was ratted, untamed. She wore very little makeup, her eyes, a dark brown color. So where's Foxy? Glenda twitched slightly at the familiar tone of the girl. She knew she shouldn't be jealous of her, but she couldn't help the ugly feeling that welled within her. Still, she wasn't one of the top huntresses of the world for nothing. She kept her features schooled, not showing any emotion. He's teaching his class right now, she responded. You are a few months earlier than we planned, so I'm afraid that there won't be much for you to do unless you want to work as a teacher's aide. We have also begun clearing out a room for you. By the end of the week, we will have it set up for your other work. You will be able to make any reasonable changes you wish. That's great. Thank you, the girl said. So can I get more information about my job? Glenda gave a sharp nod. I assume you were informed of a student with potential in your department? Vaguely, yes, the redhead replied. Something about his potential is only matched by his foolishness. Glenda chuckled. Yes, what he did was incredibly foolish. If not for his potential, we would have reported him. So what did he do? He cheated his way into Beacon. He hacked into Vale's records, stole information, made a forged exam report, and sent the falsified transcript to Beacon. As impressive as that is, he has had little to training in combat. So we are having to get him up to speed. Interesting. The woman said. When can I meet him? He does have a very full schedule right now, Glenda stated. However, you may be able to catch him at his lunch break. Great. I'll see what I can do. So what about Rito? Professor Uzumaki is teaching his class at the moment, Glenda said, a bit of irritation seeping into her voice this time. He may be free later on, but he does have a very full schedule. HM? Is something wrong, Glenda? No, Ms. Woods, it's just been a few long days. Glenda lied. Nothing for you to worry about. She stopped at a door with a name tag, Samantha W., written across it. This will be your room until we are finished with the other. Please make yourself at home. There is a map of the school grounds, as well as the staff's contact information. If you need anything, I or another will be glad to help you. Your belongings should have already been brought in. Ah, no, Tur? The redhead half joked. Pursuing her lips for a moment, Glenda replied. I have a class to teach in 10 minutes, I need to prepare for them. Sorry for the inconvenience. Now if you'll excuse me, Glenda cursed herself as she walked away. She knew she had been short with the woman, she wished she could have acted better towards her, but her jealousy and fear had gotten the better of her. She sighed as she rubbed her eyebrows. I need a drink, she muttered. Line break. Naruto sat down, beside Glenda, who jumped lightly, having been lost in her thoughts. Are you alright, Glenda? Naruto asked. I heard a couple students say you acted a bit irritated in class. Oh well, it's nothing, Arie. Glenda, I wore a mask most of my life. Right, she muttered, not meeting his eyes. Sighing, she spoke. Sam arrived today. I was less than proper with her. I didn't mean to lose control of my emotions. I'm just jealous, I suppose. Of what? Naruto asked. Of her, of you, Glenda muttered, her heart pounding in her chest. She's so close to you. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You're close to me as well, Glenda. You're very important to me. You've done nothing but try to help me. You've always been there for me, always supporting me. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her right against him as he stared up at the stars. You're one of the most important people in my life. He closed his eyes. I honestly don't know what I'd do without you. Glenda hurried her face into his chest, hiding her crimson blush. She groaned softly when his scent filled her nose, making her blush all the more fierce. Are you all right? Naruto asked as he began stroking her hair. The blonde whimpered as she felt his fingers gently tugging her hair from its bun, and letting it fall down her back. Glenda? He asked, worry working its way into his voice. He gently pulled her off of him, looking down at her face. You're so hot, he said, feeling her forehead. Are you sick? And no, she managed to get out. But it is chilly out here, I should probably go inside. Hearing the reluctance in her voice, Naruto raised his own body temperature, manipulating his chakra to heat the air around them. If you don't want to go inside, I can keep it warm here. It's the least I can do for you. Glancing between him and the door, she bit her lip, before laying her head in his lap. Well, if you insist, she murmured. Something about how she had said those 4 words triggered something in the blonde male. Naruto swallowed. Looking down at the woman, he felt a strange feeling well inside him. He knew what it was, but he couldn't figure out why he was feeling it. Maybe because Glenda is truly beautiful? He swallowed again. Maybe because of where her head is. He found himself regretting asking her to stay, as he fought the lust growing in his body. She's so close. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to ignore his growing arousal. Focusing on what he was going to do in class, Glenda felt her blush deepen. She considered commenting or questioning the erecting member she could now feel, however, instead decided to keep her peace and enjoy the fact that he had begun to find her attractive. Besides, she thought, looking up at him from the corner of her eye, he looks cute, trying not to think about it. Feeling devilish, she let out a soft yawn and nuzzled into him. Naruto bit back a groan. This woman, he growled to himself. He could feel her lust building. Now that he was actively feeling her emotions, he could feel her enjoyment, as well as a powerful emotion directed at him. He swallowed yet again. He rarely, if ever, let himself feel the emotions of his closest friends, feeling it an invasion of their privacy. He nearly choked hearing a soft moan from Glenda as she pressed her face into his stomach. You're so warm, she muttered. Naruto clenched his teeth, breathing deeply through his nose. Come on. Ignore it, he yelled in his head. Why am I getting turned on now? Damn it. Glenda bit her lip, stealing a glance up at Naruto. She knew she was taking a large risk in teasing him like this, but she couldn't bring herself to care. She had been holding herself back for years, and he wasn't saying anything against what she was doing. Though she knew it wouldn't lead anywhere, not this night at least, she still wanted to push a little bit farther. She nuzzled into him again, breathing in his scent deeply, then froze when she felt his hands rest on her head. Cammy, damn Glenda, if this keeps up I'll end up doing something we'll regret. He growled, his voice heavy and husky. She looked up at him, feeling her heartbeat quickening at the sight of his crimson eyes. What do you mean? She asked innocently. Please, Glenda, he growled. He sighed, trying to calm himself. Glenda, I'm not sure how I feel. See, can you give me some time to sort out my emotions? Please, I can feel how much you care for me, but I don't want to do something out of lust. And I don't want to use you as a replacement. I don't want to hurt you. Glenda sat up, giving a soft smile and said, This is why I love you. She leaned into him and kissed him softly. You care about others. A low rumble emitted from his chest. You have no idea how hard it is for me to hold back right now. Her smile turned seductive and she leaned forward as she stood, giving him ample view of her cleavage. Whenever you get your emotions in order, don't be afraid to come to see me. She walked away with an extra sway to her hips. She barely kept herself from squealing as she felt his eyes burning into her. Pushing the balcony door open, she headed to her room, walking quickly. Once inside, she let out a girlish giggle. Yes. She pumped her fist, dancing towards her bathroom while removing her clothes, soon leaving herself in her standard black lacy underwear. Looking in the mirror, she bit smiles slyly, imagining Naruto's reaction if he saw her like this. Already aroused, she glanced over at a small stock of her personal water-safe toys, before making, in her opinion, excellent use of her semblance. Line break. Foxy! Samantha called, throwing herself at the tall blonde arms outstretched. Her face plowed into the dirt from a harsh chop Naruto delivered to the top of her head. Not now. I'm busy, he said before turning back to his class of first years. As I was saying, you should never let your weapon be out of arm's reach. Doing so is just asking for trouble. If a Grim or another being attacks you, you will be a lot less effective at defending yourself, obviously. The reason I am bringing this topic up is that I have seen several students leaving their weapons, against trees, or just laying on the ground. That is unacceptable. You are supposed to be the protectors of Remnant. How can you protect her if you can't protect yourself? He watched as a large majority of the students looked to the ground, while 9 others, either out of arrogance or some other feeling, stood smirking. Even fewer stood without emotion on their faces. These were ones he was proud of. These were ones who had never let their weapons out of sight unless they were in their lockers. These were the R, B, and Y of Team RWBY, and the P and R of Team JNPR. Naruto looked over the students one more time. On the outside, he looked calm and collected. Inside, however, he was panicking. Why is Sam here now? I felt her arrive yesterday morning, but why did she come now of all times? With what happened last night, I'm not sure I can deal with her. I need to get my mind in order. Clearing his throat, Naruto said. I want a 2-page essay on the uses of toad leaf oil, as well as a list of herbs of the Mistral region to live off of, a list of each herb's effects, and at least a paragraph explaining why you chose those herbs. Your assignment is due in 2 days. Class dismissed. Naruto braced himself as he watched the last of his class leave. It's so great to see you again. Sam gushed. How have you been? Great, probably since you. It's been so long. Oh, guess what? I got a girlfriend. She's so awesome, and don't worry, I ran a background check on her. Well, after we got together at least. Sam. Naruto interrupted her tangent. Breath. Taking a few deep breaths to calm herself, Naruto took this time to look her over. Gone was the scrawny, frail girl he had saved years ago. Well, she was still scrawny, but not unhealthy, like she had been when he had found her in Atlas's orphan training program, OTP, a guise for experimenting on human and fauna, using kidnapped street children. He sighed as the memories returned to him. That had been when his and Ironwood's relationship really soured. The militaristic man had turned a blind eye to the program, claiming that he hadn't truly known what was happening within it, simply because it had yielded results. Naruto had almost killed the man for it, but Glenda had been able to keep him from doing so. He snorted. Glenda had always been there for him. How had I not noticed? He asked himself. I really as dense a brick. Yuto. Come on. Stop ignoring me. Sam whined, poking his face. Naruto swatted her hand away. Geez, you little imp. Calm down. He growled playfully. She stuck out her tongue. I'm not an imp. Naruto flicked her forehead. Yeah, whatever, come on, you hungry? Am I hungry? She muttered as if it was the dumbest question in the world. Right, Naruto muttered. You're always hungry. Story end. What if Naruto gets cheated on by Ruby? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.